all cylinders, basically.
Yeah.
I don't need change to come in just for the sake of changing things.
Right. Yeah, that's true. What else have you guys, like, I feel like there's been so many other things to watch as well. We've been so locked into the Titans GM search. I mean, we've got college football, playoff football we'll get into a little bit throughout the morning. I have had to just like totally disconnect at times. Mm-hmm. And I have watched one of the greatest TV shows that I've watched in a long time this week. Severance is amazing. On Apple TV.
You're into that.
And there was a report yesterday that season 2, which comes out next week, got a 100% ranking on Rotten Tomatoes.
Does that even happen?
Wow.
Is that even? I didn't even know that was possible.
It does not happen very often. You have to be an elite, like it's being described as a generational season of television that is coming out next weekend. So I'm on the season finale, which I hit that moment last night. I'm sure you guys do the same before you do this show, where it's like it was like 10 p.m. and I just finished the next to last episode and I lingered.
You got to.
I lingered and I almost watched the finale, but I did not.
I love it.
So I'll watch it today. But being snowed in, there will be plenty of content to consume over the next 40 hours.
I was going to say, listen to this show because we always give you some shows to look forward to because all of us watch so many of them, I feel like, and different ones at the same time. So I'm sure that you'll get a couple that you can binge this weekend if you are trapped in. I had to get away, guys, like you were saying, Will. I've been on my phone constantly just trying to keep up with all the information that's come along with this, Titans situation, I guess I could just say. So I went and I just did a day where did the compression like things. I did the infrared sauna.
Normatec.
Yeah. And I went over to this new place in Green Hills called Pause, and they're awesome. They listen to the show. They're big fans of the show.
Yeah.
And just spent some time over there and disconnected, and it was awesome.
I got to ask you guys something. I had a dream last night.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
I had a dream last night that I was driving my 95 Yukon.
Uh-huh.
And it was pulling to the right hard. And somehow I took both my hands off the steering wheel for a second, maybe just to adjust something, and it turned hard right into a curb, okay? And I banged my knee against the dashboard.
Oh, no.
I felt it as I was sleeping. It woke me up. Have you ever had anything like that happen? I mean, in the dream, I hit this curb hard enough where I remember hitting the curb with my knee. Now,
And
admittedly,
you felt it?
I'm telling you, Kayla, I woke up and I'm thinking my knee is like, seriously, like
the worst.
I literally, but I'm thinking this is a dream.
Sure.
Did my mind make my knee hurt because it knew that I was in an accident in my dream?
Hit it on something while you were sleeping.
I was sleeping, Will. I'm in the bed. I wasn't even moving.
Do you sleepwalk at all?
I don't sleepwalk.
See, I am a terrible sleepwalker, and I will do things while sleepwalking and dream about them. Like I've woken up with like a box of Cheez-Its like all over me before. I woke up to like peeled tangerines like all over my chest, or I'm just eating them in my sleep.
Yours is like a food one?
But my mom used to do it too. My mom used to have really vivid dreams that she would think were real life. And in one dream, she was taking everybody to the bus stop, walking all the kids to the bus stop, Mother Goose style, and the bus was like not stopping. So she was worried that the bus was going to hit the kids. So she jumped to save the kids. She was standing on the bed and jumped into the wall. We had to take my mom to the hospital.
Are you
Have fun explaining that to the hospital attendees. Yeah, she jumped into a wall. They're all like, we got to call somebody for this lady.
That's nuts.
I literally felt it when I got up this morning, was put my clothes on. I'm thinking my knee is actually sore. So I'm thinking, is that the power of the mind to where I'm literally dreaming?
100%.
Yeah, it is the power of the mind.
It's like when you wake up or you have a dream like your significant other was cheating on you and you wake up mad.
You wake up mad. Yeah,
it's like, I'm mad as hell right now. How dare you do that?
You had a fight, and it's like, well, now I'm kind of annoyed with you.
Yeah.
Hey, Bert, AJ Parkinson in the chat said that your wife kicked you while you're for snoring.
I do that all the time. I will knock someone out.
I mean, it was just crazy. I had to ask somebody about that.
I had a recurring dream. I was in a hot air balloon over the Grand Canyon, and I fell out. And I would always wake up as I hit the ground.
Yeah,
that was my recurring dream as a kid.
Do you ever? I had one a week ago where I screamed. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I screamed in my sleep. And Travis woke up and said, "What's going on?
What's going on with you? You all right?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
wild.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coach Dave McGinnis coming up at 7:20 this morning. We're going to dive into the different candidates who have emerged for the Titans GM job And, of course, we'll still make picks against the spread in hour number 4 at 9:20 for the Thursday 3. But coming up next, philosophically, how does the new vision, how does the new era of the Titans front office impact the choice you have for the number 1 overall pick? Does it change things for the organization moving forward into this spring? That's next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone kicks off your Thursday morning. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. In the F&M Bank chat, you hit the comment section there and chat with us as well as the RKW community. Guys, does the Titans organizational restructuring change the number one overall pick choice? In the world where Rand Carthon is leading the charge, and the world where now Chad Brinker and insert GM here are leading the charge, would both of those groups come up with the same choice, in your opinion?
Well, first off, how many guys are qualified to be the first pick taken in the draft? Not every 32 picks is valid of a first pick. So to me, it seems to be a little bit filtered when you're talking about the very first guy. And I'm not talking about like if the Titans are picking 10th. If the Titans are picking, later in the draft, you're thinking, okay, well, there might be some serviceable needs that might be debatable as to which one you should take. But that first guy, who's the guy that's going to be taken in the 2025 draft? And Robert mentions his name first coming across the stage.
I think there are 4 guys in this class. As of today, again, this can change. We are totally allowed to change our opinions on this as more information comes out. I think as of today, it's Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter are the 4 players that are options if you wanted to stick there and take the number one overall pick.
And what's going to stink is that 2 of those guys aren't going to be at the draft.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
In Green Bay, Wisconsin.
In Green Bay, Wisconsin. I keep forgetting
as
about
cold
that.
as it is today.
It's going to be an interesting draft up there for sure. Yeah, I in terms of the structure, would we assume it'd be the same? It's hard to tell, honestly, because when they set this whole structure up last year, it made me believe that they were rowing in the same direction as a team in terms of their needs and what they needed to do to really build up from the draft. So that's the kind of thing that we were told in training camp from Chad Brinker when we had a conversation with him. Rand Carthon had mentioned it. Like, we are trying to build a steady foundation through the draft. Of course, right? Everybody wants to do that. That homegrown success is the best success. But last year, they had to do some things just to fill spots in free agency. But I don't think that's the direction they want to go in moving forward. That makes me believe, guys, if you really want to have homegrown guys, wouldn't that also start with a homegrown quarterback? And I know you don't have to do it this year, and maybe the best bet would be to trade down. But Chad Brinker comes out with this plan of, hey, we're looking to really grow these guys from the draft and really be a team that builds from the draft. And I would think your quarterback that you don't have right now, for the most part, it starts with him. However, I don't know if that is Chad and Brian's philosophy now without Rand, because Brian is a quarterback developer. He said numerous times he wants to develop a quarterback. That he loves that. That's part of what he thinks he's good at doing. But with Chad now being in charge, I don't know if that's Chad's vision, because in Green Bay, they liked to trade down a lot. They'd like to pick up picks in the draft. So maybe that's the philosophy he brings.
Would the pressure to work for an owner who has fired someone 3 straight years, would that dissuade you from taking the risk on a quarterback this offseason?
I think they have to really look at what they think their future is with Will Levis, if there is one at all.
I think that's been decided.
Well, hold on a second. The reason why I say that is because if you pick a quarterback, you've already said what you're going to say. You're talking about Brian wants to develop quarterbacks. Well, you got one that needed to be developed, and it's probably been a harder road than you thought to get to this point, right? But it seems like that first pick has now, elevated the conversation of finding Will's replacement, because you do have the first pick. You do have the potential to take a quarterback first in this draft, which says a lot about his future if you do that. Now, is that going to mean he's going to be on the trade block? Does that mean that he's going to be fighting for a job of which he probably will end up losing? There are a lot of wheels that get set in motion if you do take a quarterback. But if you feel that, hey, we can get something out of this guy if we surround him with players that really make a difference, like a Travis Hunter, then to me it says that, hey, look, we can still work with what we've got, because you got to think about it. Brian does have an existing relationship, whether it's, whether the results have shown it or not, with Will Levis. They sit there and talk about what they need to do every single week to win ball games. Does it always happen? to where they win ball games? No, it doesn't. And obviously, it's only happened 3 times this season. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you pick a quarterback, then you've already said what you needed to say about Will Levis. Right. As obvious as it may seem to be about what the future is with him, we don't know if they've decided to move on from him or not.
And that's what I'm frustrated about, honestly, because I think they gave him every opportunity this last year to at least show at some point, I can fix my problems with turnovers. I can fix my problems with, not being able to go past my first read. The sacks were an issue because he took a lot of them on himself. And I think that's a dangerous road if you don't just, move on from him and have a plan to go to next. Doesn't mean he can't be the backup here next year. Guess what? He's under contract. Like, you don't win the starting job, you don't win the starting job, right? Yeah. You'll move forward in the future. That's fine. Right now, they need to focus on who they really feel like can be their quarterback that can win them games next year. I don't think that's Will Levis. And that's why I think if they like one of these 2 quarterbacks, you do send that message, Brad.
Yeah.
I just think the challenging thing is, like, Rand Carthon got 2 years. If you pick Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward and there are not immediate results over the next 2 years, then your job's on the line. So that's why I asked the question. This organization doesn't have a lot of patience when someone picks a QB or develops a QB and it doesn't work. So does that encourage you to go a different route and take a safer choice?
I don't think that Brian Callahan has 2 years to prove that.
He doesn't. No,
I think this next year, if it goes great, then guess what? We're not even having this conversation about Brian Callahan and his future here in Tennessee, at least in the immediate future, right? But if this thing repeats itself again, after what they've already done with Rand, it's not even a thought.
Because that's the tricky part of this is the new vision is the draft, develop, retain. Chad Brinker tells Jim Wyatt, over time we have to have a focused, methodical approach where we are measuring our success by first downs and not touchdowns. Touchdowns are going to come. Let's get on base. Mm-hmm. That was word for word what Chad Brinker told Jim Wyatt. That's all great. Again, you have to have time to do that. And I just think that maybe there is one thing we've learned, and that's this. If they draft a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick, that guy is not going to be playing right away.
Right.
I think that is maybe the shift. Mm-hmm. Because now you as an organization have got to think like, all right, first of all, neither of these 2 guys are the level of prospect to earn the right to play right away. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders both are going to need time because they are both flawed prospects who likely would have been mid to late first-round picks if they'd come out last season. If that. Might have been more like second-round picks. Tom Pelissero said on Rich Eisen's show the other day, there are many scouts that don't even have a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders. That, to me, is what I think this organization is going to have to do. If you do take one of those 2 guys, you better have a bridge quarterback in place who is starting week 1 to soften that blow of whenever those guys do come in.
And yeah, that's why I said yesterday on the show, my choice and I know it sounds crazy to some, but my choice is to draft one of those quarterbacks if that is exactly what you feel like is going to fit in your system and you think you can work with that quarterback as Brian Callahan. Draft one of those quarterbacks, you have money, go get a bridge quarterback, and then Levis is there too. At least you have padding there because we all know what the most important position on this team is to get right. And then at least it gives you, like you said, an option to sit one of those quarterbacks even for half the season. And maybe you bring him in like you did Michael Penix Jr., right? When you weren't happy with the results you were getting from Kirk Cousins, you just decided to move on. You could always do that too, or you could just keep that veteran quarterback throughout the season if he's good enough. And then, like I said, you have Will Levis on the bench.
Yeah, and the question is going to be, who's going to be 2025's Sam Darnold?
Right,
if it's not him
you're
himself.
Exactly right.
And you've got to have that dude because Minnesota got lucky.
Yep.
That J.J. McCarthy goes down, and they have a dude that reinvented himself enough after having a dysfunctional situation start in New York to be a guy that people are like, man, this dude is awesome. You saw the celebration after the last game they had about that dude.
Yeah.
And how well they were supporting him.
Well, he went to the right place, too, for him. The best place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get it out of my mouth.
Exactly.
Couldn't even get it out of my mouth. So can Brian do some of the same magic that Kevin did with Sam Darnold to put him into position? That who was up there with Seattle when Geno Smith got there? and start having the same kind of chemistry, the same kind of makeup. Shoot, Joe Flacco reinvented himself in Cleveland and made it really hard for them to sit there and look at Deshaun Watson with any form of respect. You see, so now the Titans will be in that same situation because I'm in agreement with you, Will. This next guy coming in, he ain't going to say things immediately. He's going to need somebody to mentor. He's going to need somebody to give him some time to get his feet wet and get himself acclimated. Now, it might be the future that looks bright for him, but immediately, which is what the Titans need, is a change in what they've been doing so far at the quarterback position.
For sure.
Bring me Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean.
Bring me Justin Fields. Derek Carr, plan B, because he's worked with Brian Callahan, but he's got to be available first.
People like Daniel Jones, too, as much as he's not great in terms of what he did in New York.
I mean, anyone who's going to be available is available to you for a reason. Mm-hmm. Like anyone who you can sign in free agency at the quarterback position is going to have major flaws. It's just part of it. Either that or you're trading for J.J. McCarthy. But again, I don't see Minnesota doing that either.
Chad was there when Aaron Rodgers was there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And when they brought in Jordan Love.
Aaron's tired of tired of Woody's kid running the ship up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you give it to, speaking of Green Bay, though, they've done it right. And maybe luck plays into it a little bit, but then they sure got lucky for 3 straight, times that they've done the quarterback thing because it's worked out for the most part.
Why have we been snake bitten at the quarterback position since 1995?
It's a problem that half the NFL has every year.
Yeah, but think about it. It's almost how many years now? Can the problem go away?
I know. Can this be the year?
So I'm being facetious, but I'm not.
Wild,
I mean,
though.
It's like we've been chasing the ghost of Steve McNair since he left and went to Baltimore. And there hasn't been there have been some guys that give you sparks and the idea that, hey, you know what? Maybe we found our generational guy. But it ain't happened yet.
Tannehill was great for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. That's why I think this fan base didn't appreciate what he did enough. Yeah. Because this is now the wilderness that you're wandering through again. You had manna from heaven, finger rolled right into your lap from Ryan Tannehill. 615-737-1045. Hunter is in Jacksonville. First up on the phones this morning. Hey, Hunter.
Hey, guys. Appreciate you taking my call.
Yep.
Will brought up a good point yesterday, talking about maybe that Chad wasn't a fan of the Calvin Ridley move. It might have went against the do's and don'ts list that he kind of highlighted earlier this week. And I was thinking, I like Amy. I never really, everything I heard was positive. The players speak highly. And so I'm like trying to go in my mind because I wanted to keep Rand. I'm like, so how does this make sense? And maybe the right tackle situation that we had last year was Rand's idea. And he was like, hey, Callie, can you work with this? Yeah, I can do it. But then you look at the special teams. Maybe that was also Rand's idea. Let's get rid of all the special teamers, keep the best available people on the team. And these ideas maybe went against the do's or don'ts, or maybe weren't Chad's, and Chad used them, or maybe Amy said, hey, these were your ideas, and now they kind of all came back and bit us. I know it's a collaborative effort, and there's evidence that Chad helped facilitate the Calvin deal, but I'm kind of like, why? It just doesn't make sense. I know many people are against this move, and I'm just trying to kind of think it out loud, and wanted to bounce it off your guys. What your opinion was.
Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate the call. It is just, it's difficult to understand because we were sold on the fact that this was a 3-way brain trust between Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan, and Rand Carthon. So it's impossible for us to differentiate who had what idea because they told us for a year that they all kind of agreed on everything they did.
Yeah, I think you said it nail on the head there, Will, because it was that collaboration word that continued to be used that made us think if we all are making the decisions, it's together. So that's why I kept saying if one person's going to get canned, you can them all, because I think it was you sold the collaboration thing. So now it leaves us questioning, like you did, Hunter, was he responsible for right tackle in making that final roster decision? Was he responsible for the special teams type of moves that they made? We have no freaking idea.
Yeah, but the thing is, who was available at right tackle that someone was willing to give up that was a quality dude that Bill or Brian could have worked
that's
with?
part of it too.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why Nicholas Petit-Frere won the job back, is because of the options that they had at right tackle. It wasn't because they had some dude in free agency that was saying, hey, look, I'm going to hold you guys for a king's ransom, but I'm going to lock down that right tackle spot while you let that left side develop into something, right?
Yeah.
Your back door was blown wide open. And the thieves were running in and out of that back door, no matter how bolstered the front door was. You see what I'm saying? So that was a situation they were going to have to deal with either way. But there was obviously no yellow brick road. They weren't arm in arm looking for the Wizard of Oz to give them the options and answers to what was going on. They were coming in different directions, seemingly. Because like you said, if there was enough blame to pass around, then they should have been equally distributed. But it apparently wasn't, because there's only one dude that lost his job.
Yeah, you had some options at right tackle. I mean, there was no just overwhelming, this is the guy you like. There was no Lloyd Cushenberry at right tackle, essentially.
Yeah, you said who's the guy that was at right tackle they could have brought in here?
Jonah Williams, Jermaine Lumignor, who's in New York, George Fant.
Are they on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys play. Like Mekhi Becton, they moved inside in Philly.
So you did have to go to somebody and say, hey, do you mind giving us your right tackle?
Those were the free agents. Those were the free agents available to them last year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. 615-737-1045. Big D is in Nashville. What's up, Big D?
What's going on, gentlemen? Hopefully, and lady, hopefully you're having a good morning. Here's the simple problem with the quarterback situation. Here's the fix. And Kayla was hitting on it earlier, so let me give everybody the details. When Joe Montana was the head of the snake in San Francisco, who had to sit behind him, boys and girls? Steve Young. To the Packers issue, they've had the best quarterback in the league, arguably, if you're a Packers fan, for decades. What happened? Don Majkowski leaves to Brett Favre. Brett Favre leaves to who? Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers leaves to who? Jordan Love. What's the commonality between San Francisco and the 49ers? They sat their quarterback for about 2 to 3 years who soaked it up.
Yep.
Brett Favre said he wasn't going to teach Aaron Rodgers how to do the job. Aaron Rodgers had to learn the job, learn from the best. He got his time. He becomes a star. Jordan Love did the same thing. If the Titans with that type of patience and that type of maturity, they'll have a great opportunity with any of these quarterbacks that they decide to pick. The question will be, for a bridge quarterback, here's what.
Oh, Big D.
Shoot.
And let them sit there.
Yeah, thanks, Big D. You cut out there for a minute, but we got the gist of what you were saying. There's two different ways you can do that then. You could go get somebody this offseason and trade back and move back to pick 6, move back in the top 10 and sign a bridge quarterback this year, or go get your guy with that team's first-round pick next year, or you just make both moves this offseason.
They did it here. They did it here in 95 when they brought Chris Chandler in, and they sat Steve McNair for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, that's right.
And guess what? The difference was Chris Chandler won 8 games each time that he started in the season. Now, if your team is only winning 3 games or 2 games and you got some dude that you said, Kayla, was a bridge quarterback, then automatically it's going to thrust that dude into the lineup, because people are going to say, hey, look, it's not working with this veteran that we brought in here. Let's just throw the young guy in there, because at this point we got nothing to lose.
Michael Penix in Atlanta this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it depends really what that bridge does. If that bridge wins 8, 9 games, then ain't nobody saying anything.
Right.
Right, Minnesota? You see what I'm saying? So they did it here.
And look, I know the Titans don't have all the luck in the world. I get that, right? They haven't been lucky in certain situations, in certain positions. But there is always that chance, too, that you don't start that rookie, but maybe he comes in and maybe he's a faster learner than you think. We look at the Jaden Daniels situation. They started him this year. I know he's a talent, but no one thought that he was going to be this ready. And he was. So you can always run into a situation too, as long as you have options. And that is why you need to give yourself as many options next year at quarterback, so you can just pick and choose kind of what you need to do.
Alex Smith kept the seat warm while he got Patrick Mahomes ready.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of examples of it working, and then there's Malik Willis waiting here, getting his opportunity and not taking advantage. Again, not a first-round pick, different scenario, but plenty of arguments on both sides of it. But if you're looking at how Chad Brinker could recreate the Packers way here, that is a very strong example of one practical way he could do that in signing or having two quarterbacks at once. 615-737-1045. Your reaction. What do you think the Titans' first-round pick strategy is now with new leadership? Plus, I want to look again at the free agent quarterbacks for this offseason. Kayla and I have given our number 1 and 2 and 3 choices. I would love to get Brad's take on who he would be most interested in bringing in, as well as RKW continues after this. It's a thrilling offseason for the Tennessee Titans here this winter and spring. The number one overall pick in April. How does the new vision affect that for the organization? It's our question to you on the phone line, 615-737-1045. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. To the phones where Levis Lover is in Cookeville. Good morning, Levis Lover. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. I know it's been a minute since I've called. I kind of fell asleep or fell off at the front porch after this week 6 or 7. Just like the intro song, give it away, give it away. Let's give it away that first pick, huh? I don't like Cam Ward or Sanders. I think that it's just it's kind of like some of those drafts where you don't have, like, you've got a lot of quarterbacks, but I think they're all kind of mid-tier. I think they're kind of later first-round picks, if that, maybe second-round picks. I think that either way we would mess up by taking that. And just like The Bachelor, we're in season 30-plus here in Nashville with the Titans. We always make the wrong selection. Let's not do it again, okay? Further thoughts while listening to the commercials. Do y'all think that Blaine Bishop sounds like Cat Williams impressions? But I just think we should take a trade, move back, maybe pick up multiple picks, and don't look for a young quarterback right now. I don't like the draft class. Pick up, like y'all said, a bridge quarterback. I don't know exactly who it would be right now. But next year, regardless if we got a young guy, bridge guy, next year's going to look like we're going to be a top 5 pick again. So let's just work towards getting that new stadium and hopefully getting some excitement for those expensive ticket prices that's going to come with that new stadium.
Thank you, Levis Lover. Appreciate the call. That's right.
Oh, my goodness. I love that.
That is right.
He's preaching patience in this, is what I heard from him, at least in terms of he's saying, hey, it's going to probably take a couple of years. So.
Well, it is. In order to trade back, someone's going to have to give you their first-round pick next year.
Yeah.
And the problem with that argument, that none of these guys are great, so might as well just move back. Well, that also means that teams will be less inclined to make a deal with you because they're less likely to mortgage their future and mortgage 2 first-round picks on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. You need the narrative to start changing around both of them that, hey, Titans really like these guys. Come up and make a deal, because then if you get the Raiders 2026 pick and they inevitably stink under whoever they hire, and if they play one of those 2 guys, you might be picking in the top 5 with their pick again next year. But you only make that deal if you get someone's 2026 first-round pick.
I feel like Levis Lover, if he wants to continue on with, like, insert player here, Lover, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders just don't fit. You can't say, Shedeur Lover! It doesn't work. Like, I feel like they would have to draft Travis Hunter. Because you could be like, Hunter Lover!
I love that.
It still fits. Like, he could make that work.
That was really good, Bert.
That's right.
Bert.
Hollering this early is not easy.
No.
I'm going to tell you this. Where I live, they're putting in a Wawa's.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's big time.
That is huge.
We are all patiently waiting for the Wawa's.
Big Jersey and Philly chain.
But we haven't even seen the concrete being laid yet.
Oh, yeah, you are patiently waiting.
We are anxiously waiting for the Wawa's, right? If they say, hey, there's going to be a Wawa's right there, and that thing was up in 2 weeks, we'd be like, hey, that took too easy for y'all to put that thing in here, Is it up to speed? Is this really what we're getting? Are we getting what we think we're getting? Right. Is this up to code? Is the roof going to fall in on us when we walk in through the doors, So we're being patient for the upcoming Wawa's that's being built. And that's kind of what we would want to have for this team here. You know what I mean? Build it the right way. Mm-hmm. You unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, have the opportunity because you have the first pick to start with those blocks. Now, the building blocks did start a couple of seasons ago. As in my opinion, they started when you addressed left guard. Then it started when you addressed left tackle. Then they brought in some dudes in the interior of the defense that are starting to make a difference and help some of the already proven products that you have on that side of the football. So they're starting to build the blocks together that put together a beautiful Wawa's. Mm-hmm. And we're waiting patiently so we can get some of that the yumminess that comes within there.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because you just said, like, some of the pieces that are, do not get me wrong when I say this. I'm not meaning boring, But, they're not the flashy positions, right? They're the positions that, put their head down and kind of don't get all the credit sometimes. I mean, we've got both offensive linemen who are on this show at times, Ramon Foster, obviously. And then when you come in, Brad, you're an offensive lineman. You don't get all the flowers all the time. Interior defensive linemen sometimes as well. Now you start to say, hey, now we can get some of these other guys, possibly a pass rusher, right? Possibly a quarterback. Some of those positions that you've waited to kind of see come in the draft, but you haven't been able to pick because, again, you're making up for time and, not having the right picks from John Robinson. So,
Brad, we mentioned before the break, free agent quarterback options. I am in the Justin Fields camp. You have got guys like Jacoby Brissett. You've got the younger options like Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, who I think anyone here, those aren't really starting quarterback options. Those are the highly picked bust options. And then you have the likes of a Jimmy Garoppolo and a Cooper Rush and Joshua Dobbs and even Russell Wilson, who has taken the Pittsburgh Steelers to the playoffs where they just get out of bed and go 9-8 or 10-7 and make it. Is there a name out of those or a name out there in terms of veteran quarterback options that you think would fit best here next season?
Where's Derek Carr?
Derek Carr is still under contract, but I think could very likely become available considering the cap situation in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So that essentially I would put him in the free agent category as well.
Yeah. That's somebody that when I watch his relationship, not only with, the guys that he's throwing to or, the guys in the backfield, he's a popular player in the locker room. People can buy into his abilities. And to me, he does fit the mold of a Chris Chandler. Because I saw that up close and personal. I remember when they drafted Steve with the third pick and they brought in Chris, kind of like, not a lot of flair to it. There weren't people expecting anything. But Chris Chandler was good enough after his stint here to take the Falcons to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And that's the one quarterback that has worked with Brian Callahan out of all these two.
You see what I'm saying?
And remember, though, he's only played in 10 games this last year.
Right. So he's kind of fresh.
That's fine.
But the point is, he gives you a veteran feel that understands his role. Unless he feels that, hey, look, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to be the Titans coach or quarterback for the next 5-6 years, period. Now, it's good to have that mindset, but in reality, if they did bring in someone that was young that was going to be his successor, the outcome of the season is going to determine how long he's actually going to be here.
Right.
But I like his professionalism, whether he was in New Orleans, whether he was in Las Vegas. I remember when he tearfully stepped down and gave way to, who was it, Jimmy G or Aiden O'Connell, somebody.
Yeah.
That was his successor in Las Vegas, and he just kind of, rode off into the sunset. And I felt sorry for him at that point, but I thought this is a dude that could play.
Every time we have these conversations, someone, and again on YouTube this morning, someone always comments Jake Browning. Jake Browning is not available.
Yeah,
he is under contract in Cincinnati in 2025, and you have Jake Browning at home. His name is Mason Rudolph. I'm sorry, I don't see a major difference between Jake Browning and Mason Rudolph, and Jake Browning is under contract. So unless you're trading for him, he's going to stick in Cincinnati, and they don't have much prerogative to do that. That's their backup behind Joe.
Yeah, and I get the Derek Carr connections, absolutely. I just think, maybe he's kind of at that point now that it is what it is in terms of playing games. I don't know how many, he has in the tank left. He's had some injuries, concussions. I don't know.
Yeah, anyone you're able to get is going to have major red flags. That's why they're available.
And that's a fact.
Yeah, especially a quarterback.
But you just don't want them to lose your ball games. That's all.
Exactly. That's when it's all said and done.
615-737-1045. More of your calls. We'll get to Braden on the other side. We will tell you everyone the Titans have requested to interview for the general manager position. What's the name that stands out most to you? We'll answer that question for you next.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, one of the top candidates in this year's head coaching cycle, is scheduled to interview with 4 teams he's set up virtual meetings with as follows: Raiders and Patriots on Friday, Bears and Jaguars on Saturday. Since the Lions and technically the Chiefs have a bye, their coaches are permitted to interview virtually for head coaching positions. Jordan Schultz reports yesterday that he expects the Titans to get their new general manager search up and running fairly quickly. 3 names he names to keep an eye on: John Eric Sullivan with the Packers. He's their vice president of player personnel. Terrace Gray with the Bills. He's their director of player personnel. And John Spytek, the assistant general manager of the Buccaneers. Some injury updates heading into Wild Card weekend. Packers quarterback Jordan Love was officially limited with his elbow injury, as was his backup Malik Willis with a thumb injury. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts dealing with a concussion and a left finger injury, was listed as a limited participant, another step towards him playing in Sunday's game versus Green Bay. Commanders cornerback Marshawn Lattimore had a hamstring injury. He was a full participant, a good sign that we'll get to see him and Mike Evans box a little bit in their Sunday playoff matchup. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW hour number 2 on 104.5 The Zone, talking Titans, talking football and life. Anything in between. 615-737-1045. Brad Hopkins is here for Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh at the controls, and streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Coming up in 20 minutes, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us. We'll answer the rhetorical question of who does Coach Mack know? Everyone. So he'll have insight on the Titans GM search, on where they go next, on Chad Brinker, and all of those good things. We've got a list for you of everyone the Titans are reportedly interviewing. Terry McCormick adding yesterday afternoon Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons GM, on a list that also includes Ed Dodds, the Colts assistant GM, Mike Borgonzi, the Chiefs assistant GM, Catherine Hickman of the Browns, Terrence Gray of the Bills, VFL Reggie McKenzie, John Spytek of Tampa Bay. He missed a great opportunity to go into private security.
Right?
John Spytek. Come on.
It's great.
Legendary. Jordan Schultz adding, keep an eye on John Eric Sullivan in addition to Gray and Spytek. We're going to dive into those 3 names specifically in about an hour. But guys, out of that list, who stands out to you?
I'm looking at the teams that these guys were on and the records that they actually possessed while they were there, because that meant that they contributed to the winning in some form or fashion because they were in the building. You know, so when you talk about a guy coming in from the Chiefs like Mike Borgonzi, when you look at guys coming in from, and, you know, like Ray Agnew from Detroit, and these are teams that somehow have seen the changes that needed to take place. Now, the Chiefs are a little more obvious because they've been dominating the AFC West for, good Lord, ever since Patrick has been there. But teams that reinvent themselves, like in Detroit, where you watched Dan Campbell put together a team that was really, really struggling, and through the help of front office, found the right guys that, you know, had good chemistry and put things together. So and that's the way I'm looking at it right now. I'm still out as far as like who I'd like to see in that position, but you know, when you look at where they came from and what the team was like that they were actually helping to put together, that's a good indicator to me of what they could possibly do here in Nashville.
I think when I look at these types of things, just because it's not like I'm some connoisseur on general managers in the league, I look at obviously the connections that are already here in Nashville.
Makes sense.
Because one thing I feel like Chad Brinker is doing now that he has, you know, final control of the roster and he's going to be elevated above this person is you start to bring in your own people. And not only was Rand Carthon fired, but there were other parts to the staff, the upper management, I should say, that were fired as well. And so I feel like this is giving way for Chad Brinker to kind of bring in some of his guys. And don't we understand he came from the Green Bay Packers? And I think there are still a lot of connections over there. So I think John Eric Sullivan, when you bring up that name, is one of the ones that stick out to me because of the relationship part of it. He was the Packers vice president of player personnel, interviewing with the Jets as well as it's stated here that Will has written out. But son of former NFL coach Jerry Sullivan, obviously he's got connections in terms of the NFL in the background. But, he's done a lot of scouting. And that's one thing that we know they're looking for is somebody who really has ability to scout and has had years of experience doing that. That and the connection with Chad makes me think this could be one of the highlighted picks.
What is the most important attribute or characteristic resume bullet point to you guys for whoever the Titans hire?
The assessment of talent.
Okay.
The finding of a guy that you know is going to make a difference. Now, sometimes it's that diamond in the rough because you do such a deep dive into who these guys actually are that a lot of people don't see them because there's obvious picks. There's obvious people that, obviously are moving the needle to where people are paying attention to and eyeballs are on them. But if you're that dude that in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round can find those guys that a lot of people are missing on and they turn into something consistently, then that means that you have a good eye to know what works. So for me, it's being able to assess talent.
And I think that's something that actually Rand did very well. I think Rand had the ability to naturally find those late round picks. And that's why this is all still confusing to me, but that's not the point right now. I think that's part of it, Brad. Absolutely. You're no doubt right on that because if you're going to continue to compile draft picks and that's how you're going to build the draft, like the Detroit Lions, who have had some really good picks that weren't necessarily in the 1st and 2nd rounds, right? Once you get further down the way and you're able to find some of those gems, that's what you want. You're not going to have that every time, but if you can just compile a few of those. But also, I think it is very crucial, guys, if you are going to be evaluating that, getting those first rounders right. We need to continue the success of getting first rounders right. And I think for the most part, too, we have to see the long-term effect, but Rand has done a good job of that as well, even though they've been kind of more boring offensive line picks. I also think in this position, guys, moving forward...
Kayla.
No, I'm not trying to be rude about it, but I'm saying from a fan standpoint, they want to see skill positions.
And I don't think we know enough about J.C. Latham yet to say that's a successful pick. I don't think we have enough evidence.
Even
and Peter Skronsky is a good player. Peter Skronsky has not risen to the level an interior lineman needs to rise to at number 11 to be considered a successful pick either.
Isn't that always, though, by year 3, you really know what they are? I mean, it's hard to say in year 1 and 2. I think he took a significant jump with his pass protecting this year.
But in order to be a successful interior offensive line pick at 11, you've got to make Pro Bowls. You just do. I mean, that's not a premium position. If you're going to be a non-premium position picked at 11, you've got a really high bar you've got to cross to say, yeah, that was a good pick.
But they were so depleted, they had to go get somebody at 11, the best option there was.
The only thing I'm disputing is that was a good pick as of today. It's not been yet.
It
took me 8 seasons to get to my first Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
8.
He might.
I don't know by today's standards if that would be, that would be okay. You know what I'm saying? But at least the franchise gave me a couple of contracts between then, to say that, hey, look, even though nationally you might not recognize this guy's potential or what he's been doing for us in these last 8 seasons, but we do because we paid him some more. So at the end of the day, it might not be you needing to get into the Pro Bowl year 2. I mean, that's a slap in the face to the veterans that have already been in this league. You're not going to just come in here and just start dominating, dude. Who do you think you are? Tony Mandrich? Pre-steroids? This ain't going to work. You know what I mean? You need to come in here and learn and get your lumps like everybody else.
I'm really interested in the 2 guys with GM experience on this list, in Thomas Dimitroff and Reggie McKenzie. That's really intriguing to me. Is this job attractive enough to lure someone here who has done the job before? I don't know.
I say no. And I only say no because I don't really fully know what this general manager position really is. Because to me, it's different from just a general manager position on its own in different on different teams. I feel like this is no matter what, you have to acknowledge when you come in here and to possibly take this job, you will be reporting to Chad Brinker. You will be not having the final say on things, right? You will have the GM title, but you don't necessarily get all the goods that come with it. And I think ego comes into play in this. Whoever comes in, we all know everybody has egos, right, in this business, but they've got to have a little bit less of an ego, knowing that it might not be them who is making final decisions on everything.
Isn't Chad Brinker then essentially the general manager, regardless
That's
of what
why
they pick?
Yes.
So whether by title or whatever else, he's still, whoever the general manager is, has to report into Chad Brinker. So if Chad Brinker doesn't agree with the decision that this GM is going to make as far as draft picks and whatever else, it don't get done.
Yeah.
So it looks like Chad Brinker is the general manager, regardless of whether we give him that title or not.
Yeah, Thomas Dimitroff, though, he's doing nothing. Like that's the thing. He's GM experience, but it's not like he is somewhere else right now as a number 2. He is nowhere.
Yeah, and maybe he's fine with coming back and doing it and knowing that it's not going to be a full general manager situation, but it's good enough for him to get back in the business and work for an organization that is trying to rebuild. And it could go the right way, and he could get a lot of job offers elsewhere if it goes right. So
it's crazy too how harsh the NFL is, because if Thomas Dimitroff and the Falcons finish off a 28-3 lead, then he is a Super Bowl winning general manager. And we would view him so differently. He's probably still in the league doing something.
Yeah.
As a Super Bowl winning general manager of the Atlanta Falcons, but because Tom Brady and that comeback happened, he's just the guy that built the team that almost won the Super Bowl. He was the GM there for the Falcons from 2008 to 2020. I think general manager experience would be extremely valuable to an organization that desperately needs someone who has steadied a ship before. Braden is in Shelbyville, 615-737-1045. Hey, Braden.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good.
What's up?
Good deal. Hey, I was going to talk about what we should do with the draft pick first and then get to the GM quickly. I think it's pretty obvious we need to get New York, New England, and Las Vegas on the phone and say, hey, what are you willing to give us? And whoever the highest bidder is, you trade it off to them. Because like y'all talked about, the quarterback class for this year isn't very, up there compared to others. I think we should get their pick and try to get another first or second for next year, whatever you can do. But anyways, with the GM, John Eric Sullivan and Borgonzi are the ones that stick out to me. Both of them are in organizations that have been ran particularly well in the last decade and seem to be on an upward trajectory. I think that can always be a positive, bringing into your organization an outside person that's been in a winning and successful organization for a long period of time. But I don't know much about them, so we'll hang up and let y'all hear y'all's thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Braden. Borgonzi, a guy we'll get into more tomorrow, Chiefs assistant GM that a lot of folks really respect. He interviewed with the Jets as well for their GM opening. I think he may be a little bit too good for this job and what you're going to be able to attract, because I think it feels like he is kind of the hot name right now in that circle. I don't know if you're going to get the hottest name to come here to basically be the assistant GM, called GM. But John Eric Sullivan is a guy we're going to spend more time on in exactly an hour. So hang around with us, and at 8:20, we're going to dive into 3 names specifically that intrigue us from a Jordan Schultz report, and John Eric Sullivan is one of those 3.
And I just wanted to mention something. Word on the street is Thomas Dimitroff actually has a lot of interest in this Titans job.
I believe it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's somebody who has the experience, who is not currently in like a number 2 role somewhere else, and it's a step up from what he's doing now because he's not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people
He's
know his
hosting
name.
a show for Caesar Sportsbook. Don't say that.
You know what I mean.
He got a little cachet to him. People know who he is.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He was literally like
People
a
know his
couple
name,
plays
for sure.
away from being a Super Bowl winning general manager.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Coming up next, Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio's head coach. He will join us. He knows everyone in the league, so I'm sure he knows many of these guys as well, as we catch up with our good friend Coach Mack after this. RKW continues on 104.5 The Zone in the studio. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling joined by Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Dave McGinnis, presented by our friends at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. Mac, what's up, sir? How are you?
Well, Hoppy, Kayla, good morning. Well, today Rhett and I are getting started on all the draft stuff, so be disappearing for a while.
Nice knowing you, Coach. It was nice knowing you. Well, where do you begin that process? You start with quarterbacks, or what's it look like today on orientation day?
We're going to start with running backs today. And then we'll go through the top guys at each position, try to get thumbnails on all of them, and then go to the list of who Nagy's got down there at the Senior Bowl, because we're going down there, and then start working through, to get thumbnails on it. And then, the thing that takes time is once you get the thumbnails on them, is then just start digging in on the film work. And that takes a lot of time, but you got to establish, I haven't looked at one guy yet. I mean, we've got about 3 weeks before we go down to the Senior Bowl. So it'll be 3 pretty intense weeks here. That's just, you guys know how the season goes. Everything's linear, and this is the time we'll be holed up doing that now.
Well, Coach Mack, we will remember this day when you guys are doing your outstanding Titans radio draft coverage in April. We'll remember the day January 9th and talk about it when we have that visit with you that week. Remember January 9th, Mack? You said you were starting draft prep. I know it is a long process that you and Red enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, well, this will be my 39th notebook. I've kept every one of them since I've started doing drafts, and it's pretty interesting to go back through and read them. In fact, when I was on with 3HL yesterday, Dawn told me that when she went to Frisco, Texas to do that ball game, that she went through the Star, and they had the scouting reports of all the triplets in a trophy case, and it was very interesting when she read those. I mean, it's pretty interesting to find out, what people thought of people when they were coming out and what they turned out to be.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Coach Dave McGinnis with us, presented by Two Rivers Ford. So, Mac, obviously, Chad Brinker earning the opportunity to lead a general manager search here in Nashville. Mac, what can you tell us about Chad and watching him work over these past couple of seasons and the characteristics, the quality he has to be able to make the right decision and lead the search for a new GM?
Well, I know he'll, I just know the names of the guys that I've seen, and he's been in the business a long time. When he was at Green Bay before he was hired here. So that's what you do, is you go into what your past has been, and the people that and you spread the net to all the people that you've been involved with, coming up, and so that's what he's doing. I don't know, as I say, that that aspect of it. I've hired coaches before, and I know that when I was hiring coaches and started that process, when I was the head coach, then I went through all of the years and the contacts that I had made, and I mean you rely upon your experience, but you also rely on people that you trust too, and again, then the particular job qualifications and each job that you're interviewing for is a little bit different. So. The exact things that he's looking for, he's a very smart guy, and he's very, very organized. So, he's up against a pretty good time frame too, because I just mentioned the Senior Bowl and all those things, because the league doesn't stop for anything. It doesn't stop. It keeps moving. And so if you've got to catch up with it, you've got to get to work pretty quick on whatever it takes to catch up, and that's what he's doing right now. So he's probably pretty covered up too.
Coach Mack joining us this morning on RKW. Coach, when you start to now look at all of these players that are going to be in the draft, and you have the number 1 overall pick, for me, and I don't do this job, it's like, oh my God, there's so much to unpack here and exactly what we want. What's like first things first as you go into this and you're scouting and figuring out exactly what you might want to do at that pick?
Well, I mean, that's a whole different dive that you take into that, because first you have to And you're gathering the information with a lot of from a lot of people to begin with, and then you're looking at your roster and you're looking. I mean, there's a whole lot involved with it. Now, you don't ever want to have. I mean, just being honest, you don't ever really want to have the number one pick because if you do, it means you haven't been very successful season-wise. That's just the way in inverse order the National Football League draft is set up, but if you do have it, it's not only that first pick that you have. I mean, it's it's very valuable capital to have, throughout the whole draft. And so you're taking a look at people, with the same lens, Kayla, but at the same time, when you're picking at the top of the draft, then if you've got everything in order as they should be from all of your time since the last draft that your department has put this together, you've got people that should be at least with what they've done and how they're evaluated, guys that are at the top of their positions coming out all the way through the draft, and how you manipulate and work that. It's a lot different than if you've got the 27th or 28th pick throughout the entire draft. I've been involved in drafts over the time where we've had picks, from the top to the bottom. And it's not just that first pick, as I said, I'll repeat, it's throughout the draft as to where you're looking at different types of people just because of where the picks fall.
With you, how you go down to the Senior Bowl every year, with Rhett and company, when you're, evaluating some of these guys, just for people who don't understand this kind of part of it, how much can some of these guys' draft stock rise to? And you've got to just be able to be on your game when you're scouts or you're doing that in terms of a front office to kind of be aware of those things, because you've got, 8 picks this year right now?
Well, going down to the Senior Bowl, and again, I've been to every one of them. I've been in very different aspects. I've been a head coach down there in the Senior Bowl before. I've been an assistant in the Senior Bowl. With that type of environment, you get a lot different look back then because you live with the guys for a week. You've got them in meetings. You've got them all day. I mean, it's a different look. If you're not involved with them on the field, I guess at least you get to see them on the field. And now, the way that the Nagy has set this thing up, you get to interview them now. You get interview time with them now down there in an environment that's a controlled environment, just like they have set up at the Combine now. Nagy's done a great job of getting that as to where it used to be, if you weren't coaching them and you weren't with them, well, then there was really no designated time. I mean, you had to catch as catch can to get these guys and to sit and visit with them. So you do all the groundwork when you go in there, of course, watching the collegiate film and collecting everybody's reports on them when you go in there. But then you have meetings with your scouting department as a coach before you go down there, and then they will tell you the particulars on each guy from your position that they would like you to look at, and some of the things that they would like for you to look for that they still have questions with their initial looks at the guys during the season that they've been watching. So it's a pretty involved process. For myself and Rhett, I mean, I'm in a different capacity now, once I'm broadcasting, because I'm not in the room with any of these guys. None of that stuff happens for me. What I like to do, though, is be able to talk to the people that are down there that are able to do that, and then be very intent and sit in the stands and take notes and watch the guys. And the other thing is, Kayla, you have to be zeroed in on one person at a time to be able to watch, because you can't, it's like going to the county fair. You can't ride all the rides at once. You got to decide what you want to see, what you want to look at, concentrate on that, write notes on that, and then go back and do it the next day. And that's why it's good to have a lot of set of eyes down there with you, and then compare notes, and it's a whole deal.
Coach Mack, when it comes to finding the new general manager, do you think that obviously most conversations are talking about an expedited process? Do you think that you'll have been introduced to the new GM before you guys head down to Mobile?
I know. I probably doubt it. I doubt that we will, because our timeline when we go down there is Mike Keith sets us up as far as with Nagy, as far as all of our credentials and those types of things. I mean, I imagine we won't be introduced to him before we go down there. I mean, I won't. Mike Keith might, because he's up there in the office.
I should probably rephrase that, Coach. Like, do you think that guy will already be in place? In other words, it's important
will that guy be in place?
Yes.
I would think that he would like to have him, but I don't think it's a must because of this. They whoever he's interviewing, and I know he's interviewing seems to be names of guys that are deeply involved, you know, in that process everywhere else they are. That person will already probably know who all of these people are. Absolutely, he'll know. I think that it's more important that he will take the time and get the person he wants rather than pushing himself up against a timeline to get one.
Yeah, and we're in a draft where it seems to be quarterback is most of the conversation, seemingly, regardless if you do it through the draft or if you do it through free agency for the upcoming season. But we always tend to also grade the drafts by the quarterback prospects. So your thoughts about this year's upcoming class? You know, is there a definitive number one in your opinion?
You know what, Hop? You've known me a long time. We've known each other a long time. I don't know what that says about both of us. But I haven't watched anybody on tape. I've television scouted, you know, some people, but I don't know yet. And especially on the draft, you know, I was taught on the draft when Bill Tobin, you know, I first went into the Bears a long time ago, God rest his soul. He would not let you speak about a prospect unless you had written a report and had your name on it. You know, and so the reason I say that is I haven't studied these guys, and I don't like to be flippant about, you know, prospects and come out and say like I'm some kind of Mensa guru that this is what the draft is right now. I'm being very honest. I haven't looked at them. I've TV scouted them. I don't pay much attention to what's going on as far as, and I try not to about what's written about them, what other people's opinions are to begin with, because I want to look at them and form my own opinion first and then start gathering the rest of that information. So anything that I would know right now would be very, very surface level. And surface level to me when you're scouting is pretty dangerous.
Coach Tim McGinnis of Titans Radio, our guest on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Coach Mack, the initial list of interview requests coming in, and some up-and-coming names, some scouting names, and a couple of former general managers, Mack, that have been requested to interview for this job. Wanted to ask you about Reggie McKenzie, a VFL, Austin East road runner from Knoxville, Tennessee, someone who spent a lot of time in this league, Mack. And I know you talk to anybody about him. That's a guy with a lot of experience in this league the Titans are hoping to meet with.
Well, Reggie's been in the league a while. I know Reggie. Much respect for Reggie McKenzie and what he has done. I mean, I can speak with that if you've been in this league, because I know Reggie McKenzie, and in that world, in the world that we're talking about, that he's navigated in, and for all the people that he has helped, and for all the people that he has scouted and put into the league, what he's done, much respect for Reggie McKenzie. He, as they say in West Texas, got a lot of water in his bucket as far as that's concerned.
Mac, Thomas Dimitroff is another guy, a former Falcons general manager. We were talking before the break. It's incredible how close he is to being a Super Bowl winning general manager if the Falcons finish off a 28-3 lead against the New England Patriots. So the guy that's been reported to be talking about the job here and just the job he did, Mac, in Atlanta from 2008 to 2020 as the general manager there, another guy with a ton of experience.
Yeah, well, and Chad knows people in this league. I mean, he's been you know, with Green Bay, you know, at a high level, and he knows people. And so that's you would expect him to cast a pretty wide net. Yeah, Thomas has done. I mean, he's been very successful at times. That's just, look, this league, especially when you're coaching, and you're in. Look, the higher up the flagpole you go in this business, the harder the wind blows. And so it doesn't mean if you've been someplace and then you've been relieved of your duties that you haven't done a good job. I mean, the wind changes a lot in this league very, very quickly. When you enter it, you know that. But to your point, he has had success as a general manager because it's evident. I mean, it's documented.
Coach Mack joining us this morning on RKW. Real quick for you, Coach, when it comes to the quarterbacks in this year's draft, I asked Brian Callahan about, maybe it not being as deep as a class for QBs, but doesn't mean it's not necessarily a fit for what they want, possibly, if they take that at number one. In your eyes, Mac, does it have to fit a certain scheme in terms of quarterback, or does it just have to be what you feel like, can fit overall on and off the field in terms of a QB this year?
Well, I think all of those qualities with any position, not only quarterback, Kayla, fit into people that you draft. I mean, there are a whole lot of places, slots that they need to fit in, and there's not just one certain quality for a quarterback, nor is there one certain quality for any position. And you talk about here's what you want. You want a quarterback that is going to operate the offense efficiently on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. That's what you want. Now, whatever that entails, what type of personality, you've got all different personalities of these quarterbacks, but the one thing that competent quarterbacks have in this league throughout, regardless of what their draft grade was, regardless of what their personality is they can operate a team in real time, overtime, on a consistent basis, and give you a chance to win consistently without putting you in jeopardy as far as not being able to function properly or not turning the ball over, those types of things, because it's a critical part of the football team. Every individual that's on that football team is important, but the quarterback is the dude that starts the engine, and you need that to run smooth the whole time. So whatever those qualities are, however you and your people deem those, that's what you're looking for. It's not just one size fits all or one size fits everything that you do. But those qualities, I know this, from all the years that I've done this, you've got to have a chance, guys. You need a consistent, competent quarterback week after week after week before you can get anything else moving.
Coach Dave McGinnis, presented by our friends at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Thursday mornings here on RKW. I'm confident whoever the Titans hire as general manager will have already met and shaken hands with Coach Dave McGinnis at some point in their NFL careers. Mac, we appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
See you, Coach.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Always enjoy talking to you. We'll talk draft as we go. See you. Bye.
Yes, sir.
Bye, Coach.
There he is on day one.
I know.
Of NFL draft prep.
It's a journey.
Coach Dave McGinnis. January 9th. Write it down, folks, when we get to the NFL draft. 615-737-1045. Catch it up on your phone calls if you want to get in here. Got plenty of lines open. Plus, there is a report on one college coach's future that I will still say I'll believe it when I see it. An interesting story we'll dive into next. Wrapping up the first half of your Thursday morning RKW, fast-paced Thursday. They all are at this point, with as much as we have to discuss. 615-737-1045 is our number. Bill Belichick, rumored to be potentially talking with the Las Vegas Raiders, keeping his NFL options perhaps open. Diana Orsini with a report yesterday about the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, which, again, is just taking a lot of getting used to. Mm-hmm. Bill Belichick has no plans to return to the NFL, per sources. Diana Orsini writes, I'm told his sole focus is on coaching and recruiting for North Carolina as he continues building the Tar Heels' future. He's recruiting today in New Jersey. So you're telling me there's a chance? He has no plans. I have no plans to buy a Lamborghini, but if I was offered one,
I mean, if
I
I
would certainly take
6 shots.
Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
So the other reporting out there, and I believe this, is that now with the Raiders having an opening, Antonio Pierce being out,
Right.
Tom Brady wants to bring in Bill essentially to do an advisory meeting veiled as a job interview. I'm like, hey, what should we do? Fix this for me, Bill. Mm-hmm. You and I have fixed a lot together.
But you have to do it so formally, though. You just call him.
That's
hey, Bill,
what I'm
you think,
saying.
man?
I mean,
what do you think?
he can still come. I mean, honestly, I'm even good with giving him on a PJ and just bringing him over there and saying, hey, let's meet for a little bit. Give me some direction here.
Come recruit Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then go back and do your job.
If there's no ill will, just Zoom him. You know, you got to do all the PJ stuff. You know what I mean?
Stop by math class at Bishop Gorman High School. Then tell me who I should hire as the head coach.
Come on, man. You got that kind of relationship.
I get that, though. You know, picking one of the greats' brains in terms of trying to get this franchise going again. But I don't think that he's going to leave what he just started there in North Carolina to take a full-time job in the NFL.
It just seems weird him being in Chapel Hill, though, doesn't it?
It does seem weird.
Like,
and it's almost like until we believe it or until we see it, right, the season start and he's there as the head coach, there's always that, but what if?
Well, and it's the way his buyout is constructed. He has a $10 million buyout if he leaves before June 1st of 2025. And then that drops to $1 million as his buyout after that.
But
so
they put it in there for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did.
Exactly. I do not think he is going to leave. I don't think Bill is going to take this job and ultimately get out of there. I just think it is an interesting situation because I also didn't think he'd be the head coach of North Carolina. So I think
right.
Everything's on the table. I honestly think if he could go to the NFL still and he had a legitimate offer in a situation he believed in, I think he would do it. I don't think there's the NFL interest in Bill at this point.
I don't either.
Right.
There's got to be a job offered to him, and I don't see any of these teams wanting Bill Belichick.
He wouldn't be in North Carolina if there was someone that said, hey, Bill, you want to come be a part of our program?
I think if it was the right program, Like, is he up and leaving to go be the Jets head coach? Probably not.
Part of it is like, I don't know though. Bill's like kind of a spiteful guy. Like, I feel like part of it is last year he didn't get any of those opportunities, and he's like, look, I'm going to go show what I can do in the college ranks, and I'm going to go put my name out there. Bill's a different cat.
Yeah, but he's close to the all-time record in wins also in NFL history. Like, if he had an opportunity to break that record and coach, I think he would take it. It would have to be an opportunity that would allow him to win in a short amount of time, and I don't think that opportunity's out there for him.
Maybe he's onto something, though, when he looks at, NIL and maybe some contractual obligations these collegiate kids are going to start having, and it does look more like the NFL minors. Him kind of running a system in college that does look similar to what he's been doing for the last 30 years in the pros. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And his son is in the waiting, probably. So
not necessarily coach in waiting, but yeah, he's there. Yeah, he's on staff. Eric is in Charlotte, 615-737-1045. If you want to jump in, go ahead, Eric.
Good morning. Hey, I'm loyal.
You are loyal.
I've been on here. I've been on here.
Eric.
I've been on here for a minute now. I tried to call yesterday. It was crazy. I kept I was on hold. I thought I was blocked for a second. Hey, Brad, man, thank you for your professionalism on and off the field. Yesterday, I had so much to say and couldn't say it. Especially with the Buffalo Titans game, and I had to bring it up, but because it's getting overshadowed. But that changed my life as a foster kid moving to Tennessee. Everybody wonder why I'm not a Colts fan. I was able to go to football camp for the Titans for free. They allowed us to come. Those who couldn't pay or those who were in foster care, they really reached out. But I want to say this real quick. Kayla, you brought up something yesterday about the criticism on Rand and how dangerous it was for someone to come out and say that. It was a problem for me because, people didn't really say much about it after that one day. But, for, again, black men, I don't see Rand Carthon getting a GM job for a long time, if ever again, because of that staying. And then I had to leave y'all with this. I don't know much about these GMs, but Barganzi, I think that's his name, is the only one I'm trying to dissect because he's coming from a winning organization. And should there be a problem with me? I would not want to interview or want anybody to come in Nashville that isn't coming from some type of major success.
Okay.
Right? The Titans have to win now. They have to get it right, in my opinion, because these suites, the cheapest one for this new stadium is $300,000 a year. And so you're asking these people to keep these tickets and be loyal to you, and we're not getting anything in return. And my family has a suite. So that's why I say that. Love y'all. I'll let y'all talk. And I'll call tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Eric. I'm going to call Eric E. now because there's so many Erics. I'm just going to call that Eric E. Okay?
Okay.
I bet he made
I'd like to call him a friend because I want to go to the suite with him.
Me too, Eric. If you want to invite us anytime.
Hit me up.
So if you didn't have a suite, you wouldn't want to be friends with him, Will? Is that what you're saying? Okay. See.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
So I get what he's saying on this, and let me just point out the Rand Carthon thing. I will say this, Eric. He has built his reputation in other places, just not here. And I think he has a good reputation around the league. And I hope that one little report or whoever said that, I don't think that is going to tarnish his reputation. And hopefully he can come out at some point and speak on it. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah, but that's what they always. That seems to be the bed that always gets laid for people of color like that. It's like, oh, he's lazy. It just seems like the obvious thing to say. And then you're like, oh, as soon as somebody hears that without knowing the backstory, they're like, oh, and they hear that and all of a sudden they think it's truth. And they're not going to do any sort of investigation because that's not what we do. We don't usually find our own truths and do enough homework to find out.
I hope he can come out and speak for himself, too.
Right. As far as Borganzi, I'm telling you what.
That's such a funny name.
Yeah, right. People, I think, that are available, they usually have assistant GM labeled to them. Because if there's a general manager that's available, it means he's looking at a lateral move coming here to Tennessee, or he doesn't have a job. You know what I mean? And why is that? So, this is somebody usually that's looking for an opportunity himself to show that he can do some of the things that the guy that's over him is able to do.
So Dan Graziano of ESPN, they just posted a new piece this morning at ESPN.com about what they are hearing regarding head coaching openings and GM openings. And Borganzi is a guy who I think appears to be the kind of main option of the up-and-comers who haven't done the job before, and someone who's highly respected in the Kansas City organization. Dan Graziano writes that for the Jets, Thomas Dimitroff and John Robinson both did well in their interviews in December. Those guys interviewed before. They're both available, so you don't have to request to talk with those two. They both could meet with the Jets earlier. Dan Graziano wrote this morning, I would watch Chiefs assistant GM Mike Borganzi, who probably would be a name you'd be hearing a lot more if there were more GM openings. Did not mention Borganzi specifically as a name. He'd heard for the Titans. He'd heard John Eric Sullivan, who we're going to talk more about in the next hour, a Packers VP of player personnel and player personnel exec Lee Gissendaner. I may be butchering that name, but I think I got it right. All that to say, the fact that there are only 2 GM openings this offseason could work in your favor.
That's a good point.
Because if one of those up-and-comers wants a job now, well, it's either you or New York.
And I don't think you know that, Will and Brad, until you really get in there and sit down with Chad Brinker and those who are doing the process with him. And that's what it becomes down. I mean, we can say all we want to of how you don't want to come here because of what has happened. And I'm sure that plays a part into it. But until you sit down here and have these conversations and you get your answers answered as well as theirs, you just don't know.
It's an attractive job because the number 1 overall pick. I really think it is, regardless of how quickly GMs have been let go here in the past. it is an attractive job because of that. It really is. It is a big opportunity for you to make a name for yourself by trading it and getting a king's ransom, or by getting your guy, crushing it, and all of a sudden you're a hero here.
There's only one difference that, first off, you have to have results immediately. It's not like there's a general manager position open for a team that has been competitive. So you're coming into a situation where, man, you got to be sharp. You got to make good decisions that ultimately change whatever's been going on around here that hasn't worked. So I think when you're comparing job positions, it's like, there's got to be less dysfunction for you to feel more comfortable. But you were brought in here for a reason. It wasn't like just the general manager here moved on to take a better job and it just became available. No, he got fired, which means you coming in here have to make an immediate difference.
I'm really interested to see who they can attract, considering Chad Brinker still has final say.
That's another thing.
It's a fascinating case study in job interest and who you can lure to take the gig, considering the kind of different role. And they said it, the organization, and Burke Nihill and Chad Brinker said it through Jim Wyatt the other day, the job description of GMs is different everywhere, and this one is unique, just as the 31 others are. Really interested to see what this process yields here locally. 615-737-1045. There is a college football playoff semifinal tonight.
Wow.
Hey.
Let's talk about that a little bit coming up. The Orange Bowl tonight. What stands out between Penn State and Notre Dame? We'll reset the headlines of who the Titans are talking to and hit halftime of the show coming up.
Do you want to look and feel better about yourself? 2025 can be your year that your hair can be fuller and thicker. Hey, it's Kayla. I went to We Grow Hair. I've been documenting my hair growth journey. That was about 7 months ago now, and it's been the biggest confidence boost ever, guys. I was losing my hair in my temple area. Many of us do as we get older. You see that, but you can help your journey as well. You can call them at 615-376-6010. We Grow Hair is right here in Nashville. It's been here for 30 years as a premier medical center. They've got proven solutions that work. So whether or not you need to grow a lot of hair, let's say 2 times more hair in one procedure, they have their multi-unit hair grafting, hair transplants for that. Or you could do what I do, the fast 45-minute laser and PRP treatments. That's for men and women. Backed by the only company I trust to help my thinning hair. We go to wegrowhair.com, and you can call them right now. Like I said, 615-376-6010. This is the year to look and feel better about yourself and restore your hair. Go to wegrowhair.com.
8 o'clock. What's going on? Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, the top candidate in this year's cycle, is scheduled to interview with 4 teams and has set up the virtual meetings to go this week. Raiders and Patriots on Friday and the Bears and Jaguars on Saturday. Since the Lions and technically the Chiefs have a bye, their coaches are permitted to interview virtually for head coaching jobs. Jordan Schultz reporting that he expects the Titans to get their general manager search up and running fairly quickly. 3 names to keep an eye on: John Eric Sullivan, who is the Packers vice president of player personnel; Terrence Gray, who does the exact same thing for the Bills; and John Spytek, who is currently the Bucs assistant general manager. Some injury updates heading into Wild Card weekend. Packers quarterback Jordan Love officially limited at practice yesterday with his right elbow injury, as was his backup Malik Willis. Jalen Hurts, dealing with a concussion, still was a limited participant in practice yesterday, but another step on his way to playing in Sunday's game against Green Bay. Commanders cornerback Marshawn Lattimore was a full participant in practice from his hamstring injury. Pretty good sign we're going to see some boxing between him and Mike Evans this weekend. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show starts now as we welcome you to hour number 3, starting your Thursday morning. This is RKW. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh is our producer. 615-737-1045 is the number. I set a goal the other day that I wanted to get the 1045 The Zone YouTube channel to 15,000 subscribers before the Tennessee Titans take the stage in Green Bay for the number 1 overall pick of the NFL draft. You all are making it seem like we might get there by the end of next month.
What?
So subscribe if you are watching on the 1045 The Zone YouTube channel. It is free to you. It helps us, and it helps you as well.
Cool.
So we call it a mutually beneficial partnership.
1,800
awesome,
subscribers
man.
away, right, Will?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, go subscribe and tell your friends and family.
Remember when we got to 1,000.
If Ramon was here, he would call that a symbiotic relationship.
Symbiotic.
That's right.
Symbiotic.
That's right. Our scientist.
Music
Ramon
City
Foster.
Musical.
Yeah. Loved that.
Fantastic. Terry McCormick writing on Twitter yesterday that the Titans will conduct first rounds of interviews with GM candidates beginning today into tomorrow and Saturday, and those likely will be virtual due to threat of bad weather in Nashville this weekend. In-person interviews, weather permitting, are likely to begin early next week, as early as Monday and going into Tuesday as well. We have kind of talked a little bit, at least said the names of a lot of these guys. Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons GM. Ed Dodds, the Colts assistant GM. Mike Berganzi, the Chiefs assistant GM, among those names that have been requested to interview here. Catherine Hickman in Cleveland. Terrence Gray in Buffalo. VFL and Knoxville native Reggie McKenzie. And John Spytek, the Bucs GM. Jordan Schultz put out 3 names that we are going to dive into coming up in about 15 minutes and essentially start the process. Guys, because it does feel like today is the first day. We got to move on from the anger, the angst of how we got here, and accept that there is a process, and the GM process has got to begin.
Yep, because like you said, we got Senior Bowl and all those fun games, and you got to start understanding what you're going to do with this draft class.
But over the next 2 days, we've got college football playoff games. It has been an NFL week, a Titans week, and understandably so. So if you are a non-Titans fan that listens to us, you're probably saying, thank God, right about now, as we talk a little bit of Orange Bowl tonight. Notre Dame and Penn State. Who do you think has the edge in this one?
Oh, my gosh. Come on. You
The
asking that for real?
defense?
Yes, I am asking.
Can I say
it's
that?
only a 1.5 point spread.
The defense has
Marcus
the edge.
Freeman.
I agree.
So Marcus was the linebackers coach at Purdue, and Bryson was there. And before he went to Ohio State, and of course getting the job at Notre Dame, I've been a huge Marcus Freeman fan ever since I met him in West Lafayette. So to see what he's done with this program that has had some bad losses when it comes to playoffs, and to really position his team. He's put the Northern Illinois loss to bed. He thumped Georgia. So those are the kind of wins I think that really kind of give you the trajectory. But what I think is interesting also is that the winning coach in this game will go, to the college football playoff title game on January 20th with a chance to become the first black coach to win a major college football national championship. That's interesting. We've had a relationship with James Franklin. He was here at Vanderbilt, helped them go to 3 bowl games, which seems extraordinary, especially given the circumstances until this year when they beat Georgia Tech. But still, just watch these two coaches, kind of do their thing and make their names for themselves in college football ranks. It's pretty awesome. And for Marcus to be able to do it wearing a Golden Domer situation, man, that's just really pretty cool itself.
Yeah. No, he seems like a great guy. Everybody that I've spoke to that spent time in Columbus, too, said he's awesome, right? And he's been able to really build something here, not just where we say, oh, it's a Notre Dame, like they'll be good, right? No, they're proving that they have an opportunity to play for a national championship this year because they've been able to build upon what they're doing, and they believe in Marcus Freeman. The one the narrative for this entire, college football playoff semis is all of these teams have really good defenses when you think about it. But these two teams in particular that are going to go up against each other tonight in Miami, that's the only thing that comes to mind is defense. And what team can have a better performance and stop the other team, just a little bit better. And I think that's Notre Dame. I just think because their offense has a little bit of an edge in terms of playing how they want to compared to Penn State. I just feel like Notre Dame all around is the more complete team.
Yeah, at some point someone's going to ask me who I think the Titans should take, and I think that the Titans should take a guy that's going to be featured tonight in Abdul Carter. If Abdul Carter knocks out Notre Dame and it's just harassing Riley Leonard to no end, I think his name will be more synonymous with that first pick, because if you've got pressure to apply on a quarterback, any quarterback, I mean, you've got something to work with, and they've started that. Tavondre Sweat was a tremendous pick. Obviously, Jeffrey Simmons is hopeful that they can continue to get better working together in the interior of that defensive line. If you get an edge rusher, that's Arden Key-esque but years younger and can move forward with this franchise as they enter into a new era with that new stadium and stuff, man, that's awesome. So, like you said, defense is going to be a premium. It's going to be something that we watch tonight. And Abdul Carter could be a huge name that we're talking a lot about in the upcoming months.
Yeah, Titans fans might want to really zoom into this one.
He's not totally healthy, and James Franklin says he's optimistic he's going to play. I'll go ahead and tell you he's going to play.
He's going to play.
Ain't no way you're keeping Abdul Carter off the field tonight. I've seen him compared to T.J. Watt as a prospect.
Yeah.
Really, and again, there are 4 players I think are acceptable number 1 overall picks as of today. It's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and the 2 QBs.
Yeah.
In Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. It's an interesting game because Notre Dame and their safeties, that's a strength of their defense. 3rd in a PFF's coverage grade as a group, and you're going up against Tyler Warren. That is the objective when you talk about slowing down Penn State, beyond Katron Allen, beyond the rushing attack. Can you not let Tyler Warren beat you? I like Notre Dame in this game, but I think the other side of it says if Drew Aller plays up to the level he did in his quarterfinal, then Penn State could absolutely win this game because I don't trust either offense. This is likely to me a game that's decided by about 4 or 5 plays, by a turnover or 2, by a fumble here or there, by a special teams play. And I just think that Notre Dame's the better coach team. I trust Marcus Freeman right now in what he has going more than I trust James Franklin. It is a big narrative game either way. And I know Notre Dame just got over the hump against Georgia. They kind of already squashed that narrative themselves to say, yeah, we can win the big one. But that will forever be the question about James Franklin until he can consistently beat a top 5 team or a top 10 team. He can get them to the mountaintop. Can he get them over to the top of it? Remains to be seen. I like Notre Dame in this game. Giving away one of my picks for Thursday 3 coming up in the next hour. But I really like the kind of mojo that they have going for them right now. And I think Riley Leonard is the guy in the run game, especially with Jeremiah Love, with Jadarian Price. Penn State misses a lot of tackles. It is one of the weaknesses of that defense. And Notre Dame is built like an SEC team in the trenches. They are huge up front on both sides of the ball.
And I will give Penn State and James Franklin credit to getting to this point. And I know that they've maybe had an easier path, but I'm sorry. In the past, they're not necessarily getting to they haven't got to this point. And I know this is the first ever expanded playoff, but they hadn't reached the playoff. And so I feel like this is a step forward for them and a chance for Penn State and James Franklin to prove, again, all of us who keep saying they're not over the hump yet, which they're not. This is the stage to do it on tonight then. And so that's why I think it's going to be a really good matchup. It might be 6-3 when it's all said and done. But I do think I'm with you, Will. One turnover could probably determine it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they won a couple games by big favorites. They had a water slide to this point. See if they can take advantage. Should be fun, though. Mm-hmm. Orange Bowl, and then the Cotton Bowl tomorrow. That's a city that does not know how to deal with snow. Dallas in snow is about like Atlanta in snow. We saw how that went, about 10 years ago?
Yeah. It might be madness.
That is a city that will shut down if it snows too much. So prices are dropping significantly to get into that game.
Oof.
Ticket prices are cheap. So
maybe book your ticket
if
you're
you want to fly to Dallas and get a snowmobile while you're there, go for it. Coming up, there are 3 names that NFL insider Jordan Schultz says you should keep an eye on for the Tennessee Titans general manager search. This is how we'll spend a lot of our time over the next couple of days, taking deep dives into specific groups of candidates. John Eric Sullivan, Terrence Gray, and John Spytek. What to know about 3 big Titans GM targets next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked and sinking, or your porch steps, have they moved? Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation and trip hazard around your home. It's also just a big eyesore. It's Ramon Foston. Whatever's going on with your concrete, listen to me. Call United Structural Systems. Ask them about the polyurethane foam injections. That's right. You've heard about USS for a long time. It's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. They can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injection to lift and repair concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can also be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the people that I know and trust. You can simply go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com or call them at 615-488-7855.
Hour number 3 of RKW continues this morning on 104.5 The Zone TV, the 104.5 The Zone app, and on your FM radio as well. 615-737-1045. We've got names that have emerged over the last 24 hours, requests from the Tennessee Titans for potential general manager candidates. And Jordan Schultz, NFL Insider, says expect the Titans to get their GM search running up fairly quickly. 3 names to keep an eye on, he says. John Eric Sullivan, Packers Vice President of Player Personnel. That is not someone who has officially been requested to interview with the Titans yet. Still early in that process. He also adds Terrence Gray, Bills Director of Player Personnel, and John Spytek, the best name out of all of these, Bucs assistant GM as well. So, guys, that's where we begin. Now, we will spend a lot of time over the next couple of shows, the next few days, continuing to research and give you everything you need to know about these candidates so you can make your own decision on who you like. Let's start with John Eric Sullivan, guys. What you like, what stands out about his resume specifically?
Well, normally when you see someone with the title assistant general manager, they probably were a player personnel director or vice president at some point. They just, are just a step shy of being a general manager. In this case, with John Eric Sullivan, he is the VP of player personnel. Now, from what I've been able to understand from that position is that's someone that does work closely with players. They're able to understand the dialogue. They're able to understand the temperament, the mentality of the guys that are being coached, the ones that are actually executing, what the franchise would like to have done on Sundays. So that relationship to me matters. You being able to kind of articulate player needs and also understand and have those kind of conversations. One thing that I've found synonymous with any one of these picks is that they started out with some sort of internship in scouting that kind of teaches them the grassroots of learning how to become an executive in any front office. Like for me, having played the game for 13 years, I'm thinking, I could be able to assess talent. Well, there's a little more that comes along with it than that. You just don't need, play the game and all of a sudden understand how you put a team together. There's certain dynamics that you need to understand as far as, the business side of it and also being able to find those guys even in the later rounds that really make sense. So I like the fact that he has those close relationships and he comes from a football family. His dad, Jerry Sullivan, longtime NFL and college coach who retired in 2021. That means that he's been in around the game for a while. You know what I mean? More so than just, deciding after college, I think I'm just going to start coaching because I'm not good enough to play it. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of intrigue with a guy like John Eric Sullivan.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him that I see, because I think in all of these, there's similarities in terms of people that initially they'll bring in. And I know this hasn't been made official that they're bringing him in, but it is a name to watch, according to Jordan Schultz, is you have to have some of that scouting capability. And that's, again, something we knew Rand had too, but maybe Chad's looking for it in a different way, right? He's looking at scouting in through some different lenses and how he wants it done. And I think the biggest thing you see here with John Eric Sullivan is the key connection to Chad Brinker. And this is a guy that has spent 21 seasons in Green Bay, working in several different roles. Chad Brinker, he spent I believe, 13 years with the Green Bay Packers. So he has spent quite a bit of time learning the ways that they do things up there, and it does work pretty well up there. I mean, they are one of the more successful franchises, and also a franchise you look at it that's pretty sturdy, right, in terms of what they are overall. So I think if you want continuity of what Chad is looking for, because this is a weird type of general manager position when it comes down to it, you want someone that you trust and that you know is going to carry out things the way you carry out things, the way you see things. And I think maybe this is a situation where a John Eric Sullivan, coming from a familiar place and knowing how the Green Bay Packers do things, he probably would do things according to plan.
Yeah. The consistent attribute that I'm finding in all of these candidates is their experience as directors of college scouting. That is something the Titans made very specific in their initial job description from Burke Nihill and from Chad Brinker. in their initial conversation with Jim Wyatt at TennesseeTitans.com. You all both mentioned John Eric Sullivan's son, a former NFL coach, Jerry Sullivan, longtime college coach as well. And John Eric Sullivan rose through the ranks in Green Bay's front office, taking over as director of scouting in 2016. 4 years as co-director of player personnel from 2018 to 2021 before the Packers promoted him to his current role in 2022. He was a college scout covering the Central Plains from 2008 to 2011 and Southeast from 2012 to 2015, and was director of college scouting in Green Bay for 2 seasons. So 13 years with Chad Brinker, check. Director of college scouting, check. Director of scouting, check. Can you attract someone of that pedigree to essentially make a lateral move? Unchecked. I don't know. Is the GM job here equivalent to an assistant GM position most other places? Probably. So, again, there's only 2 openings at GM, here and the Jets. Would you rather wait with the organization you're in, go with who you know, or do you want to get an opportunity here with the Tennessee Titans and a guy you've worked with for 13 years in Chad Brinker?
You asked the question earlier in the show, Will, about the dynamic that exists here with Chad Brinker being the guy that hires the general manager. In other words, answering to the president of football operations. I think here's a situation in this relationship where he's probably used to already talking with Chad in that capacity, right? And he doesn't have a GM label, whether it be assistant or general manager itself. So this is his first opportunity to be a GM. But what it would feel like is a similar situation that he came from when Chad was in Green Bay in the first place. So that might not be an issue if he were the guy.
Yep. Terrence Gray is another name mentioned by Jordan Schultz, the Bills' director of player personnel. The Patriots actually last May wanted to bring him in to have a conversation about a high-ranking personnel position within their organization. And he said, no thanks. I'm good. Did not want to interview for that. Was brought into the Buffalo organization along with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane in 2017. He is completing his 23rd year in the league, his 8th season with the Bills, joining them obviously in 2017. Promoted to director of player personnel in 2022. What do you guys like? What stands out about Terrence Gray to you?
He played the game. I love the fact that, he was a JC transfer. He's from California. He played for Oregon State. He's been through, what it is to be a player at some capacity. He started with a very successful franchise in Kansas City, so he's been a couple different places. But I think the biggest thing I see out of him, guys, is he really made his mark as a scout. And we keep going back to the description of this general manager job, and scouting seems to be one of the biggest things about it. And the only way you really understand and know what you're doing is doing it time after time after time. And prior to Buffalo, he spent 11 seasons as a scout with the Minnesota Vikings. So he's moved all over, right? He's done it in different parts of the country. But specifically the last part, I believe, was the southeast part of the country, which we all know a lot of the talent and talent that translates to the next level comes from over here.
He was part of the NFL's front office and general manager accelerator program. There's something that you can put a feather in.
Yeah.
Rand Carthon was too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the main thing was personnel and coaching, getting to interact with in those sessions, being able to learn from each other. Also getting to hear different philosophies, core values of leadership and how you run a team, because they give us some problems to work through as a group. That is from Terrence Gray talking about the accelerator program, which I think is pretty cool. You get these guys off into breakout sessions of sorts, give them a task to accomplish, and you're working and learning how to be a professional in that space. So the fact that he's, done like what Will said, you say as a prerequisite, college scouting, being able to look at those young players, the ones that aren't professionals yet, and be able to say, this guy can make it, he can cut it, and then be able to kind of implement a plan and strategy that he learned working with other young general managers that would be hopeful. I think that that's probably something that people look at as attractive as well.
11 seasons as a college scout for the Vikings. I think that's a significant attribute that this organization values. For setting up a GM interview. Obviously, as Kayla said, last in the Southeast region. He has done GM interviews before. Terrence Gray spoke with the Chargers about their GM vacancy last year before the job ultimately went to Joe Hortiz and they went in a different direction. So someone who has been in high demand in a previous cycle. Mm-hmm. Of these three, I like John Spytek a lot. Okay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers assistant general manager. I think he has got a very interesting mix of experiences. Played for Lloyd Carr at Michigan, was Tom Brady's teammate, in fact, at Michigan, and helped build, with the help of Jason Light, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster, and he is a Super Bowl winner. Assistant GM in Tampa Bay. It is ironic that the last time before Rand Carthon you were hiring a GM, you also took a director of player personnel from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was John Robinson. So second verse might be same as the first. But John Spytek, to me, August 9th this year, I read an interview of him talking about how he wanted rookies to play in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' first preseason game. Quote, I want to see them strain to finish. If you're tackling people, put your face on the ball carrier and get them down. If you've got the ball and you're carrying it, I don't want to see people running out of bounds. I want to see them finish plays. Those are the kinds of guys we're looking for around here. He, to me, reading about him, has an interesting mix of old school and new school, has spent time with the Broncos as a Southwest area scout, national scout, spent 3 seasons as the Browns director of college scouting. This, to me, fits the description of what Chad Brinker said the other day when he said, we want someone who is all ball all the time. This seems like an old school, quote-unquote, football guy in John Spytek.
Yeah, he admits that he watches the game films like a scout, not just a player. You know, someone that has that kind of experience to be able to say what you just said, Will, put your face on the ball and don't run out of bounds. What that means is there's a level of physicality that must be understood, and the faster you understand it, the better off that you'll be. Quoting him also, he said the NFL is a results-oriented business, and in those 3 years that he was in Cleveland, they just didn't win enough games. So he understands the reality of this whole deal and how it works, you know what I mean? But I think also him saying that on Sunday the 3 most important things are the players, and the coaches. I think he said that intentionally. You know what I mean? Because it is about those guys. It's not about the front office guys that are wearing the suit and tie and that are up in the suite. You know, it's about those guys that are on the sidelines and the ones that are executing whatever it is that they've been working on during the week in their preparation that are the most important thing. And him understanding that and realizing that, to me, it resonates.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the guy with some of the most experience without having that, you know, type of prestigious title right now, this seems to be the guy. I mean, you guys all just listed everything that he's done. In terms of the scouting too, he's done it for so many different teams: Detroit, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Denver. When you have all these other teams that you've scouted for, and you just kind of know how to identify certain talent, and you've done it for a long time, you clearly would be a candidate in a lot of places. But he's also been happy to kind of be where he is. And so you think at some point, do you want to elevate yourself? And this is an opportunity to do that with years of experience. It's just a matter of, again, do you want to come into this job and do you really feel like it's going to elevate you in the position that you're going into? Because things aren't perfect here. There is a lot of pressure that comes with having the number 1 overall pick. But on the other hand, you could also attach your name to, hey, I was the GM when we hit on this guy.
Yeah. I wonder who's going to get the most face time, the new general manager or Chad Brinker. And when I say face time,
it's Chad.
Like,
I think it's the GM.
That's
I don't
what I'm
think
saying.
Chad wants to be out front facing.
I'm talking about like when they're at games and when you start scanning the suites and stuff like that, when they start putting the tag underneath it, Chad Brinker, you know, football operations director, whatever, president, and or general manager, whoever that guy is going to be. You know, when we're watching these games develop and they're looking at the reason why potentially they are going as they are, who's going to get the most face time? If it's that recognition that is obvious, will that guy be okay with, hey, I'm the face here that's out front dealing with all the stuff, and you're the one that's actually making the decisions behind me? That's
kind of what you're going into this job. That's why there's caution in some of it, because in a way you are possibly, if things don't go right, you could be the one that's fired again, right? Because you are the GM, but at the same time, you're not making the final decisions, but you're looked at as being that guy.
Exactly.
So, I would see Rand out there before every game, and just like Amy Adams Strunk and the players, they're signing autographs, they're talking to people. So that's a good question, like who's out there doing all of that? I will say Chad Brinker was at every practice that I had been to. He was out there with Rand as well. But yeah, that's a different way to look at it.
It'll be interesting to see how the new GM prefers, dealing with us or talking, being public facing, because Rand didn't really care for it, clearly. Didn't talk to the media a lot. But again, there's not just one way of doing that. Spytech, again, more on him, oversees the day-to-day operations of the college and pro scouting departments in Tampa Bay. Instrumental in the acquisition of free agents from the Super Bowl 55 team, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette, and trading for Jason Pierre-Paul. I feel like the diversity of experiences that he has had as both a pro personnel guy, again, assistant GM, acquiring free agents, but also a lot of time as a college scout is interesting. Moral of all that, though, is that it's the same kind of experience Rand Carthon had when he got the job, right?
Yeah.
And again, the job description the Titans want for this position is the job description of what they saw in Rand Carthon. It's just going to be a new person with those attributes, with those experiences. I'm curious how much the salary part of this plays a role. Because that is the way in sports you get someone to take a lateral move. You pay them more. How do you make two jobs that are equal titles and equal responsibilities not equal? Money. I mean, what does Ramon say all the time? That's what the money's for, right? Mm-hmm. And there is one thing Amy Adams Strunk hates, and that is being framed as cheap. They hate that. That's why I think they are even more willing to fire a GM after 2 years and pay, Robinson, Vrabel, and Callahan, and Carthon, and whoever this new guy is, all at the same time. Like, I don't think they're going to spare an expense to do it. So if that is the case, is that the tiebreaker that allows you to get someone to take a lateral move, quote unquote? 615-737-1045. Aaron is in Jacksonville, up next on the phones this morning. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
What's up, Aaron?
Hey, so I just had a different viewpoint for the Rand Carthon firing. I remember when he first got hired, he talked about he came from LA, he came from San Francisco. His style of doing things was very laid back, right? He said, when it's time to do business, I'll put on a suit and tie. But for the most part, I like to be comfortable. Then you got Chad Brinker. Where does he come from? He comes from Green Bay, where it's all business. I'm pretty sure there's not really a laid-back environment there. So the article that came out about Rand being lazy, I don't really think it was laziness. I think maybe it was just a different style of doing things.
Great point.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know what really happened.
It is.
Because in terms of differentiating their decision-making and their philosophies, like, I know Chad Brinker said it last year, and Zach Lyons put out the transcript yesterday on Twitter. Like, they talked about how similar their experiences and philosophies were. So there's something that's not adding up. There's something that had to be different about them to make Rand the fall guy and Chad the one that gets promoted.
Yeah, but what would firing Chad Brinker have done?
Well, it would have brought in a really new start and clean slate.
Okay, so I'll ask the question again. What would it really have done? I mean, people are looking at Rand Carthon, looking at Brian Callahan, they're looking at Will Levis, they're looking at, some people were even asking the question, who the hell is Chad Brinker? Because they really weren't seeing him in the forefront of things going on.
No, because he wasn't. It was
so
Rand.
that's the point I'm trying to make. Is like, if you're trying to make some sort of impact or show that you're trying to, I guess, do things a different way that will produce different results. If it weren't Rand, who was going to be? You already admitted Callie was coming back, and I don't know, would that have gone over like Rand's firing gone over if you did fire Brian Callahan after his first year? So I mean, people were looking at Gerard Mayo and that firing like, man, it was just truly unfortunate. We even heard Bob Kraft say that. I mean, it's just he needed some more experience before we put him in that position. So that's my fault. He admitted that. But there have been other jobs that people have lost. Antonio Pierce, did he get a raw deal? You know what I mean? So would firing Brian Callahan have had the same sentiment as firing Rand Carthon? Would there have been as much of an uproar? You know what I mean? So some people were kind of expecting him to get fired. Some people were like, oh, is he coming back? Oh, would you be surprised if that were the case?
And I still think there were a lot of people that thought if one goes, all go. And I think the philosophy behind that was that we keep on doing just the half shaving. Like you're not doing the full thing. And so everyone is therefore attached to somebody in the past. So if it doesn't work out next year, then this cycle continues. So I think the only way to ever really understand if it's a fresh start is to cut it all down.
Yeah, they sold us on it being a collaborative process where all three of them were equal. Chad Brinker, Rand Carthon, and Brian Callahan. So if you are unhappy with the results, then all three of those people should equally share the blame for the results not being good enough, or at least the two in the front office that are together.
Yeah, well, two did. We saw a lot of Brian Callahan. We saw a lot of Rand Carthon. Didn't see a lot of the third that was supposed to be a triad.
Right, but only one of them got fired is the point, right?
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah. 615-737-1045. More time for you to react to the conversation on the Titans GM. We'll get to Blake on the other side. We'll get you more NFL headlines as well. There is a coordinator hire that is seemingly inevitable in the NFL that I think makes a team who is not a contender this year an immediate contender next year. We'll talk about that next. Thursday morning continues on RKW, wrapping up hour 3. Our picks for the football weekend coming up in a half hour. Ramon Foster has submitted his to my SMS text messages.
Perfect.
For the Thursday 3 against the spread and against the totals. We'll have a fifth member of the picks this week with Brad Hopkins.
Yeah.
Here in studio. 615-737-1045. Let's go back to the phones where Blake is in Nashville next. Hey, Blake.
What up, guys? So I know we got to keep everyone somewhat entertained, but brother, I seen this entire season coming from the year before last when they fired Mike Vrabel. I called in and I told everyone that this is exactly what was going to happen, and I believe that some people in the radio business knew that this was going to happen, but we got to keep the Titans fans interested. But what I hope happens now is Mike Vrabel goes to the Jaguars and whoops the Titans' ass.
Lord.
Thank y'all.
I put that on my Twitter when I saw
Smartest Titans fan in the city. Blake in Nashville. Congratulations.
I'm good. Tell me I'm good.
Guys,
Tell me
Blake,
that was good.
Blake wants you to know he's really smart.
Tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm
I
good.
sure as hell didn't know that was happening, so.
Thank you.
Somebody tell Blake he's good.
If Mike Vrabel is the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I will pay Blake $1,000.
Okay.
I will Venmo him
Perfect.
$1,000.
I like it.
Give me his number, write it down.
This is fun.
There is a 0.0% chance that Mike Vrabel will be the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I just think he
it's
wanted
not
to
even
create-
worth talking about.
I just think he wanted to create the scenario where somehow Mike Vrabel gets
Oh,
to
yeah.
get back at the Titans for
well,
letting him go.
he's the
yeah.
smartest fan in the city, so if he says it, then it's got to be happening.
Go ahead and
But
and
like
bring him
in
twice a
all
week, twice a
seriousness,
season.
like we don't know that kind of stuff. I wish I had insight. I wish I was a fly on the wall.
He was talking about me, guys. Okay,
it
it's
was
my
you?
fault. I was
Okay.
perpetuating this false rumor that the Titans would be competitive this year.
Hurt.
It's all my fault. I continued to step on the pump and gas all of you guys up.
Damn.
I will take the blame and the guff, and my suspension starts right now. Don't look at it as an early weekend. Look at me as serving my time. I'll see you guys on Monday.
Sidebar. What's a
I
better?
can't believe I call you a teammate.
What's a better job, Patriots or Raiders?
Patriots.
Yeah.
Patriots.
The Raiders are a you know what show.
Well, for Mike Vrabel, it's overwhelmingly.
That's what I'm talking about for Vrabel. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously he has
everything that comes along with it, he's comfortable there.
Tommy B is his boy. You know,
Drake
And
May.
that's
They're
true.
homies.
Yeah.
You got a cheap rookie contract quarterback who's good, shown promise.
I mean, he likes gambling. I saw some pictures in the off season.
Okay.
He was in the casino, so I mean, there's that.
Can you imagine your head coach at
okay
the
then.
casino?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the fit, y'all. The fit for him is New England in every way. Just the demeanor of him,
fan base.
yeah, everything. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the toughness, all of that. That's
Where he's
Vrabel.
going. So, despite the fact that he was 6-18 in his last 24 games here, Blake still is clutching his Mike Vrabel poster that probably hangs over his bed back at home. So there is a coordinator hiring that I think is a matter of time. And I think it is going to make the San Francisco 49ers legit again. Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler writing at ESPN.com. Robert Saleh is going to go back to San Fran. He's going to be the defensive coordinator again, and I think they're going to be back. I think they're going to be themselves.
Yeah, they were just injuries away. In my
Foregone
opinion.
conclusion.
Exactly.
Yeah. You get Christian McCaffrey healthy again. You saw the difference he made before he went back out with the hammy or whatever it was that he was dealing with. That dude's a difference maker, and he was when he got there. And they have the kind of team, the kind of nucleus, Fred Warner and the likes. Robert Saleh got the most out of him when he was there. I mean, not the most out of him because the guy was already proven to be that guy even when Robert left. But for him to go back to, the Bay and do some of the things that he's most familiar with and not have the pressure of being the guy in cursed New York.
Yeah,
like,
we
gonna
can
be
say
good.
that again. Yeah, I like Robert Saleh going back there. And look, this is I think it's a good franchise, the Niners, obviously. And you're right, the injuries have caught up to him. But if you can bring him back, get that defense back to caliber level and healthy again, yeah, it's going to be hard to kind of just knock them down immediately. And I think a lot of players love Saleh as well. He might not be a head coach in this league, as we saw, but I think he's a good coach in terms of the defensive side of the ball.
Gosh, Titans should go get one of the main assistant GMs and directors of player personnel in San Fran. It's good of a franchise that is.
Oh, I think we did that.
Oh, wait, they just did. They just fired him.
Dang. But
Yeah.
man.
Commenter on Twitter
Too soon,
says,
Will.
why are y'all acting like Mike Vrabel was not one of the best coaches in franchise history? No one's disputing
I'm
that.
not disputing that at all.
No one's disputing that. He
did a
did
good
go
job
6-18 in his last 24 games. And Mike Vrabel, for who he is as a culture builder, struggled to sustain that success. Like, what do you want me to say? His record speaks for itself. We were 1 year away from talking about how he couldn't hire an OC. He had a terrible O-line coach. He was terrible at managing his staff. He was a curmudgeon to deal with. Didn't get along with the owner.
Mm-hmm. And I think
both things can be true.
Yeah, I think he learned some stuff well. I do. And we'll see in his next job if he did that. My biggest gripe about Vrabel was the staff stuff, the stubbornness stuff. Nothing that he did in terms of making those decisions really went the right way overall. There was a couple things with Arthur Smith being promoted, that kind of stuff. But overall, there was a lot of stubbornness there. There was a lot of, kind of trying to take over everything too much. So those are the two things you hope, maybe the Titans fans, but he hopes he learns from.
We have another name that has emerged for the Titans GM job. Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports writes about 7 minutes ago that the Titans have requested permission to interview Seahawks Senior Director of Player Personnel Matt Berry for their GM role. Berry joined Seattle in 2008, has been focused mostly on college scouting. Ding, ding, ding. That is the big thing that they want during his career there.
Also, real quick, the connection maybe with that, too, is Chad Brinker knows John Schneider really well. John even offered him maybe to come over there before he got a better opportunity in Green Bay. So there is a connection with Chad and maybe possibly some of the Seahawks upper management.
I think sometimes we're forgetting that Vrabel was actually Coach of the Year at one point in 2021. So
He was a good coach.
People thought very highly of him.
I don't think bad of him.
He took over a playoff team,
think he needs to
built
learn
a
some
culture,
stuff.
and couldn't sustain it when they had to re-sign players and replace aging talent with new guys. And he was a big part of that process. Yep. It fell apart quickly.
Yeah.
But national media won't tell you that. But yeah, Matt Berry, the newest name for the Titans. So that is I think a seventh name.
Wow.
Now that we have an eighth name, and I would expect that list to continue to grow. Back to the phones. Brian is in Nashville. Up next. Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys.
Morning.
What's going
on? What are the odds that we can just fix this problem with one simple solution?
Okay.
Let's bring back J-Rob, baby.
Oh, God. Where's the bucket?
Thank you, Brian.
Brian.
Bring back J-Rob. I mean, there are worse ideas.
Nope.
Yeah, there are. Come on. You drafted well here for a time.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Jeffrey Simmons. I'm talking about Kevin Byard. I'm talking about Harold Landry. I'm talking about Jonnu Smith. I'm talking about signing Ryan Tannehill. It fell apart at the end, but
he put him in the position they're in.
No.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Again, at the end, he was bad, but there is way too much throwing the dartboard at John Robinson.
There is a reason he has not been hired yet.
We'll see if he's hired in New York. It might be the Jets' next guy.
Good luck to them.
You act like he didn't build a team that made the AFC Championship game.
Okay, I acknowledge some of the things he did. I also acknowledge, though, what the mess they're in right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're talking
Both
about
things
is
can be
the
true.
crap show they're in. And he whiffed on 3 straight picks that were first rounders. And one of it was because he rolled the dice too many times, which was a simple thing to avoid.
Yeah. He made a lot of mistakes. No doubt about it.
But
at the
yes,
end,
I
the
do
same way Mike
acknowledge
Vrabel
some
did.
of the good things he did. It's just now that's not the spot they're in. So it's like it's hard to say, hey, we really give all the kudos to John.
615-737-1045. Fourth and final hour coming up. Thursday, 3 picks in just about a half hour. Burke Nihill and Chad Brinker talked to ESPN's Teron Davenport. Some interesting comments from them. And one nugget specifically, I thought, could give us a little bit of insight into where the Titans could go in the NFL draft. All that and more coming up next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your heating system keeping up with the colder weather? Hey, it's in the teens this morning. So if it is not keeping up, unfortunately, you might have found that out this morning. Well, I'm here to tell you, available 24/7, 365, Lee Company's professional team is here to help. Their technicians will perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to keep your home running efficiently this winter. Even better, save $30 on your next heating tune-up visit today. That's $30 off on your home's next heating service by contacting Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. That's 615-567-1000 online at leecompany.com. I love working with Lee Company, in business for 80 years here in Middle Tennessee, 14 community locations and open 24/7. That means they are ready to help you at a moment's notice at any hour of the day. 615-567-1000. That's Lee Company. All you need.
What's going on? 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, the top candidate in this year's cycle, is scheduled to meet with 4 teams he set up virtual meetings with: the Raiders and the Patriots on Friday, Bears and Jaguars on Saturday. Since the Lions and technically the Chiefs have a bye, their coaches are permitted to interview virtually for head coaching positions. Jordan Schultz reporting that the Titans' search for their new general manager should ramp up fairly quickly. Some names that he knows to keep an eye on: John Eric Sullivan with the Packers as their vice president of player personnel, Terrence Gray with the Bills as their director of player personnel, and John Spytek, who is the Bucs assistant general manager. Some injury updates heading into Wild Card weekend. Packers quarterback Jordan Love officially limited with his right elbow injury in practice yesterday. So was his backup Malik Willis. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts was limited in practice with a concussion and finger injury. He makes another positive step to starting his game Sunday against Green Bay. And Commanders cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, a full participant in practice, a good sign of his chance of playing in Sunday night's playoff versus Mike Evans and the Bucs. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nine a.m. in Nashville, the fourth and final hour here already of your Thursday morning RKW. Brad Hopkins in for Ramon. Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling with Robert Walsh producing. 615-737-1045. If you're watching at 1045 The Zone TV, you're on our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button while you are there and join the thousands of people who comment with us in the F&M Bank chat every single morning, midday, afternoon, and beyond by hitting the comment section. That's Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Coming up in 20 minutes, we'll give you our picks for the Thursday 3. All of us are within one game, with 3 of us, myself, Kayla, Ramon, 29 and 28 this season, our picks against the spread and against the totals. Robert Walsh coming in at 28 and 29. I'm proud of us as a show that we're just that close to 500. That's pretty good.
It's not bad. I know some people will be like, what? That's not a
500
bad
is excellent
record.
in the betting community.
Yeah.
It's better than the countdown to kickoff, right, Kayla?
Exactly. That's why I said, Brad, I was doing better here.
Yes.
Brad and I did not do so well in the count. Those were pro props. We just had difficulties.
Oh, yeah,
with.
player props. Those are tough.
It was pro.
Yeah, we just didn't do the
tough.
Buck Rising thing.
Yeah,
and just
Buck
take
did not listen to it.
at all.
He just did his own thing.
You know how many times he picked against us?
For one, I'm shocked.
Titans?
Yeah, he did.
For one, I'm shocked. So, Titans president and CEO Burke Nihill and Chad Brinker both spoke with Teron Davenport on ESPN, talking about Brian Callahan, talking about the vision moving forward, and the importance of stockpiling draft currency, which I thought was interesting. Burke Nihill telling ESPN they want to see growth in Brian Callahan, and they'll support him in that growth, but they're going to hold him accountable, meaning the front office. Chad Brinker echoing his comments to Jim Wyatt, saying we are going to be a draft, develop, and retain organization. Foundation of the roster is going to be built through the draft. Again, they said this last year with his leadership, with Rand Carthon's leadership as well. The nugget in here I thought was interesting. Teron Davenport, ESPN.com, writes, Brinker stressed the importance of stockpiling draft currency, especially picks within the top 100. One good way to do that, trade the number 1 overall pick. That's me editorializing. That's not something that's written there.
Yeah, you're right, though. And it's something that we know kind of was a thing in Green Bay as well, the way some of the things they did in terms of stockpiling and building their team from the draft. And they have 8 picks right now. So it's not overwhelming, but it's not a little bit, right? But they don't have that 3rd round pick, which is a valuable one. So it can make you and lead you to believe that possibly you do see them trade down. But again, you've got to have trade partners willing to do what you want as well. and get the most value out of it. So the whole thing with what's the motto with the draft, developed, and retain.
Draft, develop, retain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, and holding Brian Callahan, accountable, the big thing for that is the develop part. Like the two other parts are more so on, upper management in my eyes, because I'm sure Callahan is saying these are the type of guys I need, go out and get them, but that's fully on him to develop. So if we don't see a lot of that in the next year, that's where you question, does he get another year after that?
Yeah, see, but development is the caveat. Development takes time.
Correct.
Development
That's
says
the
you're
big
cooking
question.
the meal.
Exactly.
Development says it's not ready yet. And there's a level of patience that has to be, understood when you're talking about developing something. It's not like instant gratification because you picked a proven product of veterans that come in here with an expectation and a track record of success or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's a tricky word when you're using that, and especially on a 3-win team from last season. We're developing. It's like, well, how do we judge that development? You know what I mean?
What's the time frame? It's almost like in parentheses, you have 2 years to do it. You have 1 year to do it.
Right at the very bottom of this piece, I thought it's interesting. Teron Davenport writes, Brinker wants the coaching staff to allow the younger players to gain valuable experience despite the growing pains resulting from the process. But the growing pains from playing second-year quarterback Will Levis last season helped lead Carthon losing his job. That's the challenge within all of this. You say, in theory, let's throw the young players to the fire. Let them grow. Let them develop. But the last guy got fired because he did let the quarterback develop and letting him be thrown to the fire. And that quarterback consistently threw it to the other team and led you to a 3-14 record in Will Levis. So I'm curious, does that philosophy apply to the quarterback position? Do you want your quarterback to go through growing pains in real time? Or do you value the other moniker they say of let's make first downs instead of touchdowns? Let's take it step by step and take our time and sign a bridge quarterback like a Daniel Jones or a Justin Fields or a Derek Carr should he become available.
Why was there more pressure on Robert Griffin III than there was on Kirk Cousins? Because Robert Griffin III was a first-round pick. Kirk Cousins was the fourth-round pick.
Sure.
There's an expectation that comes along with being a first-round pick because first-round picks are all of a sudden supposed to be at a level that's better than most at that level with no experience, right? They're not expected to go in there and be proven veterans, like guys that have been in the league 4 and 5 years, guys that are vested. But when you look at teams and the value that they can get from the draft with young players, that first pick is supposed to be something a little more unique, a little more proven, a little more understood that it's more talented. Now, sometimes you can see those second, third, fourth, fifth round picks that play like first rounders that somehow people passed on. All of a sudden, in a couple of years, they develop faster than the guy that was actually taken first. I remember one year, John Runyon was taken after Jason Lehman. John Runyon went on to become a Pro Bowler. Nobody heard of Jason Lehman after he was done. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes it just happens that way where the guy that, you thought was going to be the dude didn't end up being the guy, and the guy you never really put much stock in suddenly develops into something. But that timetable is sped up by where you take it in the draft.
Totally. And you got the number 1 overall pick. So if you are bringing in a guy, that guy is going to have expectations. Very high expectations. It's the challenging part. I just feel like at this point, it's so rare that we see number 1 overall picks sit.
Mm-hmm.
But considering who you would have available to pick this year in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I think that guy's going to have to sit.
Yeah.
It's also who you have sitting in front of that guy, too, though.
Right.
If the veteran that they have is the bridge quarterback, is someone that, people respect and is actually having a good season, like a Sam Darnold or a Nick Foles at some point when he stepped in for whatchamacallit, they got hurt in Philadelphia.
Wentz.
Yeah, for Carson Wentz and kept the thing going, then there's a little more space for that young player to grow because he's not needed immediately. But then the minute stuff starts going wrong, it's like you just say at that point when this team is losing and with the veteran in place, what's the difference? Let the guy grow with those growing pains while he's gaining game time experience.
And that's why if I'm Brian Callahan and this is, they're all working together to get this right. Because if you are relying on him to develop, which, all players should continue to develop when they get to the next level, but especially a quarterback who he has always connected himself to helping quarterbacks, grow. That's what he said. Now, I'm not going to call him a guru, but he has said that is something I feel like is a specialty of mine. Then you better feel like you're in the best position then, like you mentioned. If you do draft a quarterback, if that's something that Chad Brinker and the new GM really want, and they feel that's the vision to do it now, you better be on page with Callahan, making sure he is going to have time to develop him then. And he's going to have an option to go out and get a bridge quarterback as well.
Yeah.
So this is crucial that everybody is on the same exact page when it comes down to this. And again, they're a step behind right now because they do not have this other piece to the puzzle in the GM. And maybe they won't have as much opinions this year, with this GM spot. But in my opinion, they are, because they're going to try to hire him as soon as possible.
That's what's funny about this whole situation, because guess what? Chad Brinker isn't developing a quarterback. New GM is not developing a quarterback.
Correct.
Brian Callahan will be closely working with that guy, whether it's in the quarterback room or on the field, making sure this guy's ready to play. So you would hope that they would have this conversation about, hey, Brian, what works or who works best for you in this situation for you to be able to do your job?
Yeah, there is a world where the Titans draft a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. Brian Callahan gets fired in the middle of this upcoming season, and that QB has a new system and a new coach and a new everything going into year 2. So if you are picking a quarterback, number 1 overall, you better be confident that Brian Callahan is his coach for his rookie contract. And maybe that is a signal of their belief in Callahan to say, all right, we're going to give you your guy. We believe enough in you to pick your guy. I don't know if they believe that much in him.
Right.
I don't know. And even if they said publicly, people get votes of confidence around here all the time that immediately get fired.
But what was that word that they said they're going to hold him to a high standard? Or what was
hold him accountable.
Hold him accountable. Yeah. There it is. Right? Yeah. We're saying it. We're going to hold him accountable. So whatever happens, if it doesn't go right, you're being held accountable. We said it.
India Hood and Big Chat commenter says, I've seen it reported that Levis was a Vrabel pick. I've seen it reported that Levis was a Rand pick. None of us will ever know. It's true that none of us will know for sure because we weren't in the room. The intel I have and people I've talked to and what we have heard is that they were all on board with Will Levis. It was not just a Vrabel pick. It was not just a Rand Carthon pick. The organization and everyone who was in that room wears that one together. So this was not Mike Vrabel standing on the table or Rand Carthon. Like, no one really is attaching their name to that. The intel I continue to hear is that they were all on the same page with that, and that was an organizational decision.
Obviously, because they were aggressive in day 2 trading up to do it.
And I do also believe that they tried to go get C.J. Stroud before that.
Yes. And we knew kind of with the reports that came out right before the draft that was a possibility.
There was buzz about that with Arizona. I believe that was plan A.
I did too.
Was for them to make that deal with Arizona, and people have, things I've heard, I think, back that up, that they wanted to make that move, and when they couldn't, Will Levis became the guy because they had to get a quarterback to go ahead. And again, that's the Green Bay model. Go ahead and get a quarterback while you still have one. If you want to talk about the way Chad Brinker has built things before at his previous stops, that lines up. And they did that, and while they still had Tannehill, it just ended up being Levis, and here we are 2 years later. Coming up next, Thursday 3, picks against the spread for this upcoming weekend. We got that for you after this.
It's Ramon Foster Hiller, plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. Y'all, Hiller has been around and in business since 1990, man, and they are family owned and operated. Hear me out right here. Jimmy Hiller was recently named the most admired CEO, one of the most admired CEO, because the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. It's that simple. Hiller also has a true transparency pricing. It's this, y'all. Look, they take care of you on every single job that they do every single time, and they stand by their work. Here's a guarantee to you. People want guarantees these days. Well, 100% satisfaction or happy you'll be or the service is free. It's that simple. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right. You heard it. It will be free if you don't like it. A professional, experienced, trustworthy technician that will come out to your house and leave it cleaner and better than they found it. For more details or to get service at your home, visit happyhiller.com.
Making you money Thursdays at 9:20 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, and previewing the weekend games.
Here we go.
We got 5 straight games, or 5 straight days, ladies and gentlemen, of playoff football. I remember when we were in the summer and we looked at the days of how the football calendar would shake out. We specifically talked about this week. Tonight, the Orange Bowl. Tomorrow, the Cotton Bowl. Wild Card Weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We are living in the good old days. You're going to be wishing for this when it's 1 billion degrees in the middle of June. And all there is to watch is college and Major League Baseball.
Right? At least when we know we're all snowed in Friday, we've got plenty to choose from.
True.
Oranges and cotton are wild, baby.
Uh-huh.
It is disappointing to me. They took out the word super and Super Wild Card Weekend this year. Did you guys see that?
No.
Is nothing sacred?
What happened with this?
I love Super Wild Card Weekend.
Well, because it can't be because it's not the Super Bowl?
No, that's what the NFL has marketed it as. And they took out the word super.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Super wild card. Anyway. Whatever. Some teams struggle to get in there. We'll make them super.
This from Adam Schefter this morning. Underdogs are 69 and 105 all time on Wild Card Weekend. That is an average of 1.5 upsets per season. At least one underdog has won a game in the wild card round in 40 of the 46 seasons dating back to 1978. Another note that Adam Schefter puts out this morning, home dogs are 16 and 14 outright all time in the wild card playoffs, and both home underdogs won last season. The Houston Texans, who are home underdogs again this year, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There are 2 teams that are home dogs this season in NFL wild card weekend. See, the word super would have made that so much more fun. The Texans and the Rams, the 2 teams that are home dogs this weekend. That is how we set the table, ladies and gentlemen, for the Thursday 3. Brad, I feel like we should give you the first pick. You are our guest this morning.
Let's go, Brad.
The way we do this, I pull up FanDuel Sportsbook, and I will tabulate what the spread is right now. So you make your pick on either side of the number it is at this exact moment. Is the way we pick, what the number is and spread and things like that.
Yeah. Let's start with Ohio State and Oregon and Texas. Ohio State, first off, they did lose to the team up north, as they like to call it, right, in Michigan, which is kind of a weird loss. But they did exercise their demons by boat racing the Oregon Ducks. And I mean the number 1 team in the country. They put the hammer down on them. So they're coming in not only with probably the deepest, roster, but the most momentum, into this situation. You're talking about a Texas team that took 2 overtimes to beat Arizona State. So give me the Buckeyes in this one. In a runaway victory, matter of fact.
Look at that.
I like it. Brad going with Ohio State minus 5.5, which is the number at the moment. Okay? I like it. Kayla, what you got? First pick.
I guess we'll just stick with college right now. I am going to go to the Notre Dame Penn State game, but I don't feel ever comfortable in this scenario, which I do think Notre Dame's a better team. So I always want to throw an under in there. So I'm going to go with the under 45.5. I mean, these are 2 defensive-minded teams. I don't feel like there's going to be a heavy amount of offense in this one. So 45.5, I know it's low, but it's not extremely low, so I'm going to go with the under.
It looks like an NFL spread in total. At 45.5. That's a very NFL number. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Robert Walsh.
I'm also going to go to that game, but I do feel comfortable picking a side, and I think the Notre Dame Fighting Irish cover, win, do whatever they want to in this game. The 2 best squads in this game is the defense of both teams. Notre Dame has a plus 18 turnover margin this year. I think that shows its head. And Penn State, you talked about it earlier, Will, has trouble tackling. Missed tackles are apparent, and when you've got a running back, when you've got a quarterback, both those who can run, who can use their legs, I'm going to take Notre Dame in this. I have it at 1.5.
I do as well, and I will make the exact same pick.
Okay.
Notre Dame, winners of 12 in a row. This team is hot. We've talked about it all season that the way the playoffs set up in college football this year, you can reinvent yourself and become a different and better version of your team in the month of January. It's exactly what Notre Dame has done. Fighting Irish have the 3rd best coverage grade in the Power 4 against wide receivers. Well, Penn State doesn't throw it to wide receivers anyway.
Nope.
They throw it to their big man, Tyler Warren. I think the Notre Dame safeties and their ability to stop Tyler Warren is the difference. And Penn State against a Notre Dame run game that can play 11 on 11. I think Riley Leonard's legs make a really big difference in this game.
Here's a crazy stat for you. Riley Leonard's turnover-worthy play rate is 1.6% across the season. On the other side of that, Penn State's quarterback Drew Aller averages an interception every 21 pass attempts in one-score games.
There you go. Notre Dame very good at creating turnovers. Very, very good defense. I love Marcus Freeman. Guy's a stud. I thought it was hilarious yesterday when James Franklin said, "I'm jealous of his hairline."
Oh, I saw that. Well, it is a
James
good
Franklin.
hairline.
Oh,
It's a
my
great
goodness.
hairline.
That's how he made up the fact that he just point blank while they were sitting up there said, "Yeah, I mean, everyone should be in a conference."
Yeah. And Marcus Freeman's like, not amused.
Yeah.
Have you
I mean, he's
watched?
right,
have you
but
watched James Franklin's beard turn? Not you, Will, because I know you don't like James Franklin. But his beard has turned quite gray over the years that he's been.
I'm sure it has.
All those losses to relevant
Here
teams.
we go. And then actually, if you want to ask me what my next pick would be, that leads me to the game you guys just talked about. Penn State really hasn't done much against, obviously ranked teams in the Big Ten, let alone, a team, like Notre Dame that has coming into this game after what they did to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl with a lot of momentum. They were able to get after Gunnar Stockton. They were able to shut down that offense. And I kind of see them doing a lot of the same thing. And I'm not poo-pooing them because, they like to go to their tight end a lot. But Mr. Warren's a beast. Probably be the next Brock Bowers, right? But either way, he's still, I think Notre Dame still got a lot going for them coming into this game. Of course, I'm going to take the Golden Domers over the Nittany Lions.
Golden Domers.
Real quick, just sprinkle in Ramon's first pick as well.
Yes.
He has got Chargers -2.5 at Texans. That's
Chargers
his first pick.
minus. Okay.
Dang, Mike.
I love it when you use Ramon's old coach against him.
I know, it's so fun.
It's like, how does that medicine taste?
I wish
Jerome?
he was here today. I wish he was here. Only for the fact that I don't think a Ravens-Steelers spread has ever been this high before.
Honestly.
Has
That's wild.
ever
We'll
been
get to
this
that
high
in
before.
just a
Just because of how the Steelers have been playing as of the last month.
Dropped
Which
the last
is
four.
Good
poo-poo.
night.
Russell Wilson back to not riding.
Yep.
Or riding a tricycle,
There you
I
go.
should say.
Kayla, your second pick.
Okay, I'm going to the NFL for the rest of my picks. So I am going to go ahead and head to Philadelphia, Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia. I know one of the listeners in the F&M Mech chat said that could be one of the ones that could be an upset. I don't think so. Green Bay Packers are beat up. Jordan Love is a little banged up. Christian Watson out. He's done for the year with a torn ACL. Philadelphia Eagles are getting Jalen Hurts back. Everything that we've heard. Saquon Barkley is ready to do business because he couldn't even break his record because he didn't play in the last game. They're rested. They're recovered. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles -4.5.
I think that's a really interesting game because I'm not confident on the health of either quarterback.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts. Jalen was still in protocol early this week and was still limited, kind of working his way back. Like the rest versus rust factor. Because I do agree with you. If you gun to my head,
like
maybe pick it.
Saquon
I
is
would
the
go
X.
Eagles, but it is an interesting game considering Philly has had time off and their quarterback has had extra time off. First game in a couple weeks
And I
for
get
Jalen
that.
Hurts.
I get that point of it too. I think Saquon has just been such a beast. It's like whoever they put in there, they've gotten business done.
Yeah, we'll see.
The rest versus rust conversation. I never was a player that liked sitting,
right,
or not keeping going what it was that got me there in the first place, man. Like when you get into the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl or a conference championship game, and halftime's extended, man, that sucks. You know what I mean? And then of course, I remember there were a couple of times when we were able to get into the divisional round after having won the division. You didn't have to play that first weekend. It's like, man, whatever got us to that playoffs in the first place, we kind of put on the shelf for a minute. And I just like keeping going until it's all done.
I agree. Totally agree. Bert, what you got?
I'm going to stay in the same game. I have a little bit of a different feel on this game. So a rematch from Week 1. In the Week 1 matchup, Philadelphia took down the Packers in Brazil, 34-29. I feel like this is an under game. I feel like with both of the teams, quarterbacks being a little under the weather with injuries, both of them having finger injuries, both of them having long injuries throughout the season, I think this is a game where they both let their superstar running backs tote the rock.
Yeah.
I think that makes the game a lot shorter. I have it at 47.5. Not a super cold game in Philly either, by the way. Only 34 degrees at kickoff.
Unfortunately, that total
It's
has gone down
Yeah, the
to
total's down.
45.5.
You're kidding
No,
me, dude. We
I
could have
know.
done this at
Serious.
6:30. We could have done it this morning. We got to wait until the last
was thinking
daggone
the same
segment.
thing.
You know why? Is because in the last couple hours, Adam Schefter came out with a report that Jordan Love's elbow and throwing motion have been affected by his injury.
Yeah.
Man, I want to cuss so bad.
I know,
man.
you should.
I'm
Literally,
losing,
that,
dude.
that report was put out 33 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh my
Adam
God.
Schefter reveals major question for Packers QB versus Eagles.
I want to say
It might keep going down, honestly.
Yeah.
whatever. Just give it to me. This is
Look
so
at you.
stupid.
I would still take it. No,
this
I
is so stupid.
I still like that. I like all of
Yeah.
your reasoning behind that.
I do too, but then Saquon takes one touchdown
I
to like
know.
80 yards and it's all irrelevant and it means nothing. So thanks a lot, Adam. Wish you would get a better camera for your podcast instead of using a potato.
Hey.
You stay mad at him about that.
You should tweet him. Just tweet him directly, Bert.
I'm sure he would see it.
Yeah, right.
What's Ramon's?
Ramon's second pick, he is taking the under in Steelers-Ravens.
Oh,
Under
yeah.
43.5. I was this close. If I had a fourth pick, that's what my next pick was going to be, was the under in Steelers-Ravens. I'm just more confident about the other two I'm going to go with. Again, though, it's the same rationale. Like, one big Derrick Henry run or two big plays for George Pickens, and all of a sudden, like, you're at 14-14 at halftime. It's like, oh, crap, wow, shootout.
And the Steelers' defense is a lot healthier than it was. They've got both their corners playing healthy, Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr. The Ravens still questionable whether they're going to have Zay Flowers or not. So a big pass game weapon down for the Ravens. I don't hate the under. But I'm so scared of this spread because, like, every time someone's like, "Well, the Ravens, that score is too big," there's no way they cover that. They cover They cover double digits twice this year against two teams.
Yeah.
They cover against the Steelers in a large spread later. So it's tough. I'm not going to bet it, but it is tough for me not to want to.
It's 9.5.
God, that's crazy.
That's
Let me see when I
wild.
can
That
figure
is
out the last
wild.
time a Ravens-Steelers spread's been that high.
What would that number have to be for you to be comfortable with it? Like a touchdown?
6.5.
6.5,
Anything under
Yeah.
7, I would take it.
That's
It is
high.
interesting because, again, I know it's a little bit of a lazy narrative, but again, it's Lamar in the postseason. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and playing a team a third time, weird things happen in division. Like, I would go Steelers plus 9.5 if I was going on either side of it. I feel like it's a Steelers win by a field goal kind of game. But I said that last time those two teams played and you crushed them. So I genuinely, I'm done betting on the Steelers. Again, I'm not putting real money on it. I can't. But for the sake of this segment, I'm done believing in the Steelers. My second pick, Ohio State. Ohio State's your national champion. I'll go ahead and spoil it for you now. Ohio State minus 5.5 against Texas.
Spoil it for you now.
I feel really good about it. So Ohio State, it's interesting. They use 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends, two receivers, 15% of the time in the regular season. In the playoffs, they have used it 43% of the time. The pre-snap motion, the easy reads for Will Howard to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, the best receiver in college football, the guy who I would be saying the Titans should pick if he was in the draft tomorrow. Honestly, if you could give me Jeremiah Smith as a sophomore in college, I'd take him tomorrow. Will Howard is just on fire. I love the matchup, though, of Jahdae Barron, the Thorpe Award winner, against Jeremiah Smith. Fascinating matchup with the Ohio State receiving core against the Texas defensive backfield. I just don't trust Quinn Ewers to keep up with what Ohio State is doing on offense. And I think Ohio State might not play a one-score game in their last two. I think Ohio State might win every single one of their playoff games by multiple scores. I think they are that good right now.
Yeah. Jay Smith, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns.
He has almost matched Terry McLaurin's career receiving output at Ohio State just this season.
Yeah. Well, Terry wasn't ever considered crazy like that.
I know,
He was
but still,
buried
he's a
in the
great
Death
receiver,
Star.
and
Yeah.
he's almost matched his entire career output as a 19-year-old freshman.
Yep.
He is a generational wide receiver prospect. I love the guy. I hated watching him a couple weeks ago, and I was freezing my butt off up there, but like watching him now as a neutral. So Ohio State minus 5.5. Brad, your third pick, please.
My third pick, I'm going to SoFi and talking about one of the
Where I'm
home
going
dogs.
to, but it's not at SoFi.
It probably will be.
You think so?
Yeah, it is.
As of now, it is. They said it could be in Glendale.
Okay.
That's
At the moment, it's still being
what
SoFi.
Kayla's referencing the fires that are going on out there, and man, God help all those
By
people
the way,
out there.
prayers up to people and my friends over there. It's wild over there.
Well, as it's supposed to be. I'm just saying,
I'm
SoFi.
interested where you're going with this.
Well, first off, Kevin O'Connell and I, we cracked a beer open after they won the Super Bowl in 2022. So I've got it. Oh, yeah. So I really love the dude, man. He's awesome.
Oh, we're going to the same place, I think.
Well, Sam Darnold throwing for 4,000 yards, too, also gives me an indication that, first off, they want to get that bad taste out of their mouth of how the Lions just gave him the DDT, pow, and said, hey, you know, in the greatest game to win the division that was supposed to be had, right, in a number of years. So I think the Vikings go in there and convincingly take care of the Rams. I'm not sure what the point differential will be, but I say the underdog, or excuse me, the favorite will win in this matchup, even though they are the road team.
Yeah,
Give me the Vikings.
-1.5 is what that's at, and I'm taking that too because my whole big thing is too. I mean, they got completely embarrassed, and I don't think they're not that team. Like they're a good team on both sides of the ball. Like I just feel like. You're going to LA too, by the way. It's not like that's a dominant, like crazy environment, right? It's not like that will factor into it. So I'm taking them too.
Kevin O'Connell knows his way around that building more than some of the assistants that are on the Rams staff right now. And you're right. The fact that Sam Darnold was harassed relentlessly by the Lions defense last weekend. Good God, they learned a lot about themselves that last weekend.
It is a really interesting game because these quarterbacks that just burst onto the scene and become dudes. You've got to then prove to me that you can do it in prime time and do it in the playoffs. And I mean, again, even we talk about Lamar Jackson, like the guy's won multiple MVPs and hasn't been able to do it on that stage consistently enough. Sorry, Bert. I have the same qualms about Sam Darnold after watching him miss as many throws as he did against Detroit. And Detroit deserves a lot of credit for forcing him into a lot of those decisions. But again, I'm not confident on that one either way. That'd be a great game, though. Student against the teacher.
Yep.
McVay and O'Connell. Storylines everywhere.
I love it.
For Vikings.
I can't stand Sean, too, so I'm hoping that he just puts the smack down on.
There you go. Bert, your final pick.
I'm going to do a little bit of defending Lamar before I give my final pick. His 4 losses, and this isn't necessarily for you. This is more for just in general. His 4 losses, one was the Chargers his rookie year. I kind of forget that one. He lost to the Titans his second year. I think that's his only real loss. Lost to the Buffalo Bills the next year where Justin Tucker missed 4 kicks. It was a 13-3 game. And then he lost to Patrick Mahomes like everyone else did. He's lost 1 bad playoff game. And the reason he doesn't have more wins is because he hasn't won more in the playoffs. I mean, that's the only way to get your playoff wins up is to win games. So the fact that he's a wild card this year, he has a very good chance to do that. But again, he'll have to do that, you know. And I also have the last time the Ravens-Steelers spread was this high. It was 2020, a COVID game when RG3 started on a Tuesday against the Steelers. So the last time this happened, Ben Roethlisberger was in a wheelchair. RG3 was playing for the Ravens, but yet we still have both the starting quarterbacks starting for these teams, and the spread is still that high. I think that's crazy. I'm going to go with the Commanders for my final pick. I was a big fan of the Bucs this year, but they have been so wishy-washy. They have not looked like a consistent playoff team. Their secondary ranks 27th in opponent success rate per dropback. They play a lot of zone. I think Jaden Daniels is going to rip them apart. The Bucs, Baker's a lot of fun. Mike Evans is a great story. You're probably going to get to see an incredible boxing match between him and Marcus Lattimore at some point in the game. I like the Commanders. I like that they're getting points. I'll take the +3.
+3 for Washington. That's another one where I'm fascinated to see Jaden Daniels on a playoff stage for the first time.
Right.
And unfairly to him, the narrative about Jaden Daniels in the postseason starts now. And so if he loses unceremoniously or is just clutch, we will unfairly paint everything he does in the postseason based on this run. Like, oh, Jaden Daniels, gamer in the postseason. Or he'll become the rookie of the year, sucked to the playoffs. You know. To me, Ramon and I have the same final pick. Chargers -2.5 at the Houston Texans. If there's one thing we know about the NFL is that the Houston Texans are going to play a Saturday afternoon game and a wild card weekend. Happens every time. I just don't think they're very good. I mean, honestly, nothing I saw last week proved to me that they're just drubbing at the hands of Baltimore is in the rear view. I mean, without Tank Dell and without a legitimate offensive line, I just don't think C.J. Stroud has had a good season at all.
Yeah, something's mentally, too, this year with him.
And I don't think they're going to be able to beat L.A. at the line of scrimmage. I think it's an L.A. team that plays inspired, considering everything that's going on in their community. I think it's Chargers -2.5 all day. against the Texans.
It just makes sense. It just makes sense because Jim Harbaugh just wins wherever he goes, man.
Yeah.
I also like the under in this game. A fun stat for this one. Houston has peaked at 23 points over the last 5 games, and over those 5 games have went 5 for 15 in the red zone.
Ugh.
Jeez. That's bad.
There you go. There is the Thursday 3. Brad, good to have you for the Thursday 3 for the first
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully I do better than, like I said, me and Kayla did in the pregame.
We're sharing 2 picks, so great minds.
Because we're sharing 2 picks,
That's
I
right.
see.
That's right. Notre Dame and Ohio State.
See how that works, Kayla?
Final call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. We'll hit headlines as we wrap up the show. Coming up next. Wrapping up your Thursday morning on RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. I feel like you always play this at the end of Friday shows. Now I feel like we're going into the weekend.
Oh,
Bert.
shoot. I thought it was Friday.
Yeah, so did I. That's why I played this.
Oh, gosh, that is so funny.
We do have work tomorrow.
Oh, my gosh.
We'll be joined by VolQuest's Brent Hubbs as well as Ron.
I feel like I should just not Friday. Sorry, guys. False
I was
alarm.
about to say.
Pump fake.
Come on.
That's a false start. That's on me.
Bro, you can't ever not play this. That song sounds.
Yeah,
I love
it
that
is.
song.
Unless we get snowed in.
I mean, we're still working, even if we get snowed in.
Yeah,
I was told when I was a young producer producing a morning show in the middle of nowhere that if I could not come into work, I should be dead. Like if there is no I can't come into work today. Okay, I hope you're laying in a ditch somewhere. Is basically what he said.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was beaten into me at a very young age that you will come to work and you will like
So
it.
you got an air mattress back there for
You will
time?
have to walk. You will get your skis. You will do what you get a St. Bernard with one of those barrels under his neck.
Oh, sure.
You will figure it out and come to work.
Yep.
Find a way, Bert. Find a way.
We
So
had
I
to do
will
it
be
when we
here.
were young.
If I've
when I
got to
was
make
young.
a best of on the fly while y'all try to come into work, I will do that.
Sure.
I'll be here. I ain't afraid of the snow.
I'll pick you up, Bert.
Cheyenne is afraid of the snow because she
Is
has
she?
volunteered me to drive her to work Sunday, which is not fun because Saturday is my fun day. That's the day I like to get inebriated in the afternoons.
If you pay me, I'll bring her.
Hey, that's fine. I can do that. Come all the way to Hermitage.
Kayla might propose to her for you.
Yeah, perfect. Give me the ring. I'll do it for you. So you
There
have
is
to
no
avoid
ring.
all the
There is
craziness.
no ring. There is no proposal.
Okay.
Well, you got Saturday night football as
Not
well.
yet.
You got to be locked in on.
Yeah, I'm not happy
Steelers
about it.
Ravens.
I told her that if she's going to sign me up for those things, she needs to tell me about a week in advance, business days in advance. You know what I mean? You can't be like, "Oh, you're driving me to work Sunday."
Sure.
It doesn't work like that.
Would you rather play Sunday?
If you don't have experience driving in the snow, sit this one out.
Yeah, this one's going to be legit.
Let those of us that have driven in the snow. Shoot, I got my license in 86 in the snow. So we know what that's like driving in feet of snow
Just
for
sit at
months,
home.
not just the dusting that comes through and it might stick
Right.
around a few days.
Or pay us to come pick you up.
Right. If you don't know how to drive in the snow, sit this one out.
Yeah.
I think I made myself too confident
Last year.
from doing it last year. Last year was the first time I really pushed it, like driving snow. And I was fine.
Yeah. We all came in on a day there was a lot of snow.
We did.
So, Bert, you were there in your Bronco too. I don't know if
That's right.
Yeah, he's talking about something back there. Anyway,
Some headlines from ESPN.com. Interesting in Jacksonville, some of the head coach conversations going on there. They really want Ben Johnson in Jacksonville. Would Ben Johnson want to coach for a Trent Baalke run franchise? I don't
that's
know.
the big question, right?
Joe Brady and Ben Johnson, the two names from Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler for Jacksonville to garner heavy interest, and Liam Cohen as well, the Bucks OC.
What was Ben Johnson's thing last year, real quick? I can't remember. Was it that he just wasn't getting interviews or jobs?
Oh, he got interviews. He just
He
didn't
just did- he
choose any
wasn't-
of them. He'd rather
okay.
stay the Lions OC.
And that's the thing. If he was being particular then, I don't know if the Jags is the shining star
Well,
there.
but I mean, you get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
And see, that's
but-
what I wonder. Like Trent Baalke's
Who
still
is-
there, so it kind of pokes holes in my theory. But if Ben
Yeah.
Johnson goes there and then trades Trevor Lawrence, and gets his guy, you would be able
Yeah.
to get good picks.
Oh, yeah.
Trade him to the Rams,
You got
trade him to
assets.
whoever. You would have assets. You got
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. and they got the 5th overall pick this year. So I mean, if you
not
wanted to
bad.
move up, you hypothetically could move to 2. I doubt the Titans would trade 1 away.
I mean, you just have to live in Jacksonville for a lot of the year.
Right, and that's the tough
that's
part.
the part.
It's not great.
That's the tough part, indeed.
It's not great. Joe Brady, interesting to me. I just feel like he was kind of a cast-off, like not that long ago. And now he is a hot candidate because with Buffalo, he's been a part of that Josh Allen-led offense. Liam Cohen, another interesting guy, too. And maybe in hindsight, Liam Cohen getting to make Will Levis as good as he looked as a junior at Kentucky. Maybe he should have deserved more credit for that.
Yeah.
Now with Tampa. I know Mike Payton, our friend from A to Z Sports, who came on the show last year, the Lions beat reporter up there, he tweeted out earlier this morning, from what I have heard talking to people, he thinks that Aaron Glenn 100% is a head coach this offseason and put it at about a 25% chance that Ben Johnson's a head coach.
Have you seen Aaron Glenn's list of people he's already
Everybody's
talked to?
talking to him.
Well, he's a stud.
Everybody.
It
And
sounds
people
like
love
right
him.
behind
Yeah, but
Mike Vrabel. He's like the second hottest name. This
Yeah.
But you've got to also be willing and wanting to interview with those jobs. And he's lining them up, man.
And again, he interviewed with the Titans and, Rand liked him from what I heard.
He was the initial name that emerged here last season.
We were talking about Joe Brady. Did you guys hear the stamp of approval that Josh Allen gave him when the media asked him?
No.
Nothing. He hasn't done anything for us.
Dadgummit. This is daggum media.
I heard a little bit.
The media puts everything in
my
solo
left
channel.
ear.
He was asked about Joe Brady. Hey, what's Joe Brady done for you guys this year? Nothing. He's been terrible. Actually, nobody should come look at him. Don't interview Joe Brady.
That's funny. Yeah, nothing to see here. Keep it moving. Yeah. Man, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
Keep him in the building.
Josh Allen has quickly become one of my favorite non-Titans in the NFL.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
I like him when he's not playing. He's so whiny in games.
He kind of is whiny.
Whines all the time in games. But off the field, he's great. Love Josh Allen off the field.
Seems nice.
No,
Seems like a cool dude.
I mean, he was here for one of the tight end youth thing.
He was throwing to him.
Just talking
Real
with
nice.
him. He was a cool dude. Just willing to engage. Stopped and had a few words.
Engaged to a Hollywood actress.
Engaged to a Hollywood actress.
Haley Steinfeld, former celebrity crush of a young Will Bowling.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I remember her from
college age.
What was the singing one she was in? I loved that one.
Pitch Perfect.
She
was Pitch Perfect 2, I believe.
Yeah, I love Pitch Perfect.
Don't ask me why I know that.
Man, I love that show.
Yeah, he rattled that off fast, didn't
Right?
you, Kayla?
Mm-hmm.
She's also Kate Bishop in the Marvel Disney Plus series Hawkeye.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
She kind of switched to being an actress in around 2017,
'Cause she was
2018.
a singer first.
Yeah, she was.
Mm-hmm.
She had some good music.
Yeah.
Like Haley Steinfeld.
Obviously.
Good couple.
Yeah, no, she's good. I'm serious. She was a celebrity
relax,
crush
man.
of mine in college.
Josh Allen's going to hear this, man.
It is. Josh Allen is winning at life, though. He makes hundreds of millions of dollars. He's an all-pro NFL quarterback, and he's dating a movie or engaged to a movie star.
Yeah, and he look and play on the field this year to be able to cut down your INTs. That's what you've always been known for, as the bad part of your game, and what he's done cleaning that up this year has been impressive.
He's just balling.
It's a good MVP runner-up.
Yeah, he wrote a note to her saying in the Times that she was his everlasting lover. What a weenie! Broncos by a million this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Corny.
L7 weenie.
He is. He's like the quarterback equivalent of a golden retriever. Is what Josh Allen is. He's got big golden retriever energy.
Yeah.
Just tail wagging, tongue out.
Golden retriever
Throw the
energy.
ball.
That's a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throw the ball.
That's definitely a thing.
Ball.
What's Pitbull energy?
Jeffrey Simmons.
Mike Tomlin.
I mean that with the utmost respect as well.
Okay, then I like Pitbulls too.
Yeah.
You got to have that. You got to have that anger.
That is the show. That is your Thursday morning. Buck Rising, Cover 2, 3HL. A good time to be locked in to 104.5 The Zone for the latest on the GM search. Number one overall pick. It is a hot off season in Music City, even though it is not hot outside. Brad will be back with us tomorrow. We will have Brent Hubbs. We will have Ron Slay. We'll have a Football Friday, of course, for you coming up. That's tomorrow morning. The Buck Rising Show next on 104.5 The Zone.